following is a special presentation of ESPN on ABC.
You can tell by the flags the wind is blowing again at Indianapolis, as it is a partly cloudy day, but a good chance to make it into the field. It is the final day to qualify for the 92nd running of the Indianapolis 500. We started last week putting the first 11 in. Yesterday, we filled the field. Today, it's bump day. Let the bumping begin.
Qualifying for a place, at least I know with who I race. How fast can you run?
For 92 years and counting, drivers have come here to mix high-velocity danger with milk-drenched victory. 12 years ago, open-wheel racing split. This year, Champ Car and IndyCar drivers hit the yard of bricks side by side, unified as one. Last weekend's pole day brought 22 cars to the line, where the pole position swapped 6 times among 4 drivers, ultimately crowning Team Ganassi's Scott Dixon on the pole. Day 2's rainout shifted the drama to yesterday, where 22 cars qualified, including Graham Rahal, making his first Indianapolis 500 start. But today is bump day, where time ticks down for teams trying to make the race. Drivers can bump their way into the 500 field, where the fastest 33 cars make the race, leaving some drivers on the outside looking in.
You're looking live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as it is bump day here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and our bump day telecast presented by GoDaddy.com, as the field will finally be officially set at the close of business today, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, for the 92nd running of the Indianapolis 500. Let's take a look at the grid when we left you yesterday. As we take a look at row 1, the first 11 positions, of course, set in our first weekend on pole day. Dixon Weldon and Ryan Briscoe. In row number 2, it was Elio Castroneves, Danica Patrick, and Tony Kanaan. In row 3, Marco Andretti, Vitor Meira, and our best qualified rookie, Hideki Muto. In row number 4, Ed Carpenter, Thomas Scheckter, and Townsend Bell. Townsend, of course, being the quickest yesterday of the 22 that went in. Then Graham Rahal, Darren Manning, and Bruno Junqueira make up row number 5. In row number 6, it's Justin Wilson, Buddy Rice, and J.V. Hamilton. And then in row number 7, Alex Lloyd, a rookie, as is Ryan Hunter-Reay here at the Speedway, and the 45-year-old veteran, John Andretti. In row number 8 on the inside, Sarah Fisher. What a great story there. Will Power, the rookie, and Jeff Simmons in the number 2 A.J. Foyt entry. In row 9, Oriol Servia, E.J. Visa, and Milka Duno. Then in row number 10, it's Mario Moraes, Enrique Bernoldi, and Jamie Kamara, all 3 of them rookies here at the Speedway. And in row number 11, Roger Yasukawa, Buddy Lazier, and Marty Roth. Those that were outside looking in at the close of business yesterday included A.J. Foyt, the 4th, also Mario Dominguez, Max Pappas, and you can see also Phil Giebler. We're waiting for news on Phil's condition. Of course, he had a big crash yesterday, had a bruised lung. They kept him at Methodist Hospital overnight. Now, he will not attempt to qualify, is what we're hearing. In fact, he has not yet been discharged officially. We'll get the word to you as soon as we have it. Right now, we have cars practicing, and we'll also talk a little bit more about that. Of course, joining me in the booth is Eddie Cheever and Scott Goodyear. And as you see, Milka Duno doing some practice laps. We did have one qualifying effort right after 12 noon when the track went green. Let's take you back to that moment. So A.J. Foyt, the 4th, pulls out of pit lane as the first to attempt a qualification run here on bump day, just a little past 12 noon Eastern time. The speed that you see at the bottom of your screen is what he has to beat in his 4-lap average to bump Marty Roth from the field, 2:15.506. Gentlemen, to say the least, yesterday was an eventful day for one A.J. Foyt IV. Let's go back and take a look.
Well, the problems he had just with getting up towards the wall, getting very close, almost like he was dirt tracking it. Got away with that one, though. And then the pressure started to mount as the day went on. He started to look at the wind, which was going up to about 15, 20 miles an hour. And in the second attempt, things just did not work well for him because he had a gearbox problem, which Marty did not allow him to get qualified and couldn't get it fixed before the gun went off at 6 o'clock.
And even though we didn't actually hear the gun, it did go off as the day ended. And this was just earlier today where it looked like he brushed the wall slightly, Eddie.
This is one of those things when you get that close to the wall, you can get away with it one time, and another time you're not, and you do nothing different. So his headset this morning is not the clearest.
Well, he practiced at 219 this morning, and there is Marty Roth. Marty, don't turn the TV channel. That's the one you want because it's the one you got to keep an eye on. Jack, as he comes to the green flag, you can add more?
Yeah, Marty. Close brush with the barrier earlier this morning has forced the Vision Lilly team to make some major adjustments on their race car. And when I talk about major adjustments, they have cranked in additional downforce and grip on this car. Not looking for raw speed. They're basically looking for a solid 4 laps. They feel confident they'll be able to bump Marty Roth.
Well, the wind is gusting from 15 to 25 miles an hour. There's team owner Tony George in the upper right of your screen.
You know, the most important thing he's going to have to watch now is that wind you guys are both talking about, because it's really coming from the worst direction. It's coming down the front stretch and pushing you in towards turn 1. And turn 1 is a very difficult turn anyway, so he's going to actually have to make sure he can keep that car on the track and get it very close to the wall as he's doing right there before he hits turn 2. Now, he's going to have a better situation in turn 3 as his first lap was 2:19.179. In turn 3, the wind will be going over the front of the car, a little easier to handle it there than it would be in 1.
Marty Roth is smiling in the upper right of your screen, but Eddie, looking at the lap tracker, he shouldn't be smiling.
His time is definitely not going to stand. It'll be probably AJ will be the first one to get him out. But I think we have to kind of set the table for what AJ's trying to achieve today. He is not on a speed run. He wants to get this out of the way. This should have been done 3 days ago, or at least on maybe even on pole day. He's had a bunch of bad luck. They just want to get it out of the way and over with so they can finally start focusing on the race. And for a young driver to be in this position, to have all those near misses without any hits, it starts to weigh on you, and it'll affect your performance when race day comes.
Lap 2 again at 2:19. In fact, a little bit quicker. So his lap average right now at 2:19.295.
And as Scott said, this is a different day today. The wind is now not pushing you out towards the wall into turn 2. It almost looks like it's pushing you into turn 1, and it's gusty, which is probably the most difficult condition you can have around this racetrack.
Across the yard of bricks, here's lap number 3 in the books, 2:19.070. So all he has to do now, guys, literally, is stay clean. He's in.
And the other thing we have to talk about with wind, as Eddie's mentioning also, is that it really changes on the engine, because you're going to get that tailwind going into turn 1. The engine's going to see a higher RPM as you're going a little faster into the turn, and the car's not going to go as fast going down to 3. So sometimes you end up with a close ratio split between 5th and 6th gears, and it's up to the driver to depend whether or not he wants to just change between those gears as he's making each individual lap.
And these engines have a very tight power band, so you can't, if you miss it by 200 revs, you'll lose a lot of time.
Here comes the checkered flag as he comes across the yard of bricks. Then the final lap, 2:19.075. So now A.J. Foyt IV moves into the 33rd and final position. And now on the bump will be Buddy Lazier at 2:17.9.
That damn point.
Well, Marty Roth can smile right now, but I guarantee you the butterflies are already churning. He has been out on the track practicing. We had a chance to talk to AJ after the qualifying run. Here's Brienne Pettigo.
AJ, it was a solid qualifying run for you. How stressful has qualifying for this year's Indy 500 been for you?
It's probably been my most stressful yet so far, but that's what Indy's all about, I guess. You know, it's a tough place, and you know, the conditions are tough right now. It's been tough for the last couple of days, so just glad to get 4 laps in, you know, but we're still not for surely in the race yet, so if we have to do more work, you know, it's a conservative car right now. We just want to get 4 laps in and see what happens.
You said the conditions are tough. How much is the wind playing a factor?
It plays a big factor. You know, I think if you ask any driver, it plays a huge factor on how you approach each corner. So it's been tough, but the guys gave me a solid car to put 4 laps in, so that's what we did.
Those 4 laps were consistently in the 2:19 range. How confident are you that that's going to hold up today?
I mean, I don't know how confident to be until other cars hit the track, you know. So like I said, it's just a comfortable setup. We're not trimmed out at all. So if we have to, then we can. But I hope it sticks out so I don't have to do it again. I've already done it. This is my 3rd time.
Looking forward to 6 o'clock, guys.
Yeah, it cannot come too fast when you are in that position. There is Marty Roth. They have pulled back into the pit lane. He has practiced at 218.9 miles an hour. That would be enough to get him into the field again if he can put 4 laps together. Let's get an update on Marty Roth from our 3rd pit reporter, Vince Welch.
Well, Marty Roth's team made a gear change earlier today. Their big issue has been a push in turn 1 and then loose in turn 3. If they take the push out of turn 1, it makes it too loose to drive in turn 3. Those were the changes they made today, trying to get the push out of it and the balance better. He just finished a practice run, a simulated qualifying run, has deemed the car good enough, and Marty Roth will push his way toward the tech pad and make a qualifying attempt to get into the 92nd Indy 500.
And don't forget, you get 3 attempts here on the final day to make it into the field, and he has yet to take his first today. Stay with us. The 92nd Indianapolis 500 Bump Day telecast presented by GoDaddy.com, where you can make the web your domain with a .com name for as low as $1.99. Holiday Inn, master of business accommodations. And the U.S. Department of Transportation. Buckle up or you will get caught and you will get a ticket. Click it or ticket. That's the Hall of Fame Museum, and you can see there is the 1990 Indy 500 winner. As a lot of those cars, and right there at the end is Eddie Cheever's winning machine, as he is here in the booth with us, has been and will be through the rest of the month of May. Good to see you again. We had an eventful day yesterday. Let's talk about what we're going to see transpire over the next 4 hours and 45 minutes that's left. 2 separate items going on here, Scott. First off, Bump Day, obviously. And a very important day. You know, we saw a great battle for the front row between all the drivers trying to find just a little bit of speed, like a 1/10 of a mile an hour would mean the difference between pole and being second. And that race for the front row really is no different than the race for the back row right now. You've got a lot of drivers looking for that speed. Maybe a 1/10 of a mile an hour might make the difference whether you're in the race or not in the race. So as much as that race was on pole day for the front row, right now, guys, there's that race for the back row. Everybody wants to get in this show. That's what they're really working for. And the conditions are not as good today as they have been for the last couple of days. And Eddie, the second thing is that we have the teams that are now solidly in the field, and they're working on race setups.
And this is the last chance you're going to get to spar with other cars. So there's lots of people out there that are trying to run with a Penske, and the Penskes are trying to run with the Ganassi cars, and somebody mixes up in the middle. So they're trying to get as much information they can with full tanks and in these difficult weather conditions to make sure they have a good car underneath them. So come Sunday, they know what they have to race with. Let's find out what's also going on down in pit lane. First up is Brienne Pettigo.
Marty, for 2 teams, the quest to qualify for this year's 500 continues. For Rubicon Racing, owned by Jason Priestley and Jim Frudenberg, their crew has not yet left the track. They were here all night long, building what they've affectionately dubbed as Frankenstein. They took parts from one car to rebuild a car, trying to get Max Pappas into this year's field. The other team trying to qualify is Pacific Coast Motorsports. Their driver, Mario Dominguez, also hit the wall yesterday. They had to rebuild that car. But to give you an idea of how, against all odds, they are still fighting, this team is so tight on budget. They maxed out 4 different credit cards just getting the crew all here from California. So qualifying for this field and the money that comes along with it would certainly help. Vince?
Well, Brienne, while those teams are trying to get into the field, there's a couple that are on a slippery slope, that being the slowest car, Buddy Lazier and Himmelgarn Racing, and the second slowest car, which belongs to Roger Yasukawa and Beck Motorsports. A slippery slope because both realize they have vulnerable speeds. Lazier at 217.0, Yasukawa 218.0. But they've also got to practice on their race setups. They've got to practice on their race cars because they know that next Sunday is the biggest day of the year. They've got to have their car not only ready for the race, but also be able to make it go faster if necessary should they get bumped from the field. Jack Arute.
And yet, Vince, for some, like the first day qualifiers, like specifically outside front row starter Ryan Briscoe, an accident early in the week has put him right on the knife's edge. Why? Because all of the work that is necessary to figure out under adverse weather conditions and changing weather conditions, generally the top teams do that with their T car. Ryan Briscoe, due to a crash, was forced to use his car that he will race in the Indy 500. Ryan Briscoe has done a great job, has really startled a lot of people with the way he's been able to keep that primary car off the wall. Why? Because this is the week where you try things. This is the week where you go out on the edge. Now all of a sudden, with time running out, it's time to lower the garage doors and get your head straight for next week's running on this very day of the Indianapolis 500.
That's right, Jack, because after today, as you see Marty Roth's team looking like they're pushing the car down towards the tech line, perhaps, to make their first run today. The next time these cars will see the track after today, Carburation Day, which Carb Day is on Friday. And, of course, we'll be on the air live starting at 11 a.m. on Friday. So right now it looks like we may have another attempt. There's Marty Roth pushing down towards the line. Back here live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Practice right now going on Indianapolis 500 Bump Day, presented by GoDaddy.com. That's Justin Wilson out on the track. He is qualified in the field solidly. Doesn't have to worry any longer about making the show for next Sunday's race. While we've got a moment, let's talk about what's going to come up a little bit later today on ABC, because you've worked all season long. You've gotten to this moment. It's Game 7. One of these teams is going home. 3:30 Eastern, the Cavs meet the Celtics, the Eastern Conference semifinals. Who advances to meet the Pistons in the finals? The NBA playoffs on ABC today at 3:30 Eastern. Well, as we mentioned right before commercial break, they're still pushing Marty Roth's car down towards the tech line. Gives you an idea just how long it is from the one end of the pit lane down to the other. While we've got this moment, let's go back and show you qualifying 101 for Bump Day.
All right, today's Bump Day. This is the day where guys get their last shot at a dream to race in the Indy 500. Every driver has 3 attempts.
It's the average speed of 4 laps.
This is when all the drama happens.
Any car that's faster than the slowest car on the field can bump that car from the field.
It's a very tough day, I think, for everybody, because it's the day that you make it or you're out.
And it is very nerve-wracking as you get 2 warm-up laps. Then you have the 4 qualifying laps. It is that 4-lap average that determines your position and speed. The slowest speed is bumped by the faster speed. You get 3 attempts per car here today. And right now the man on the bump is Buddy Lazier, 217.939. There's Marty Roth as the team has finally made it down towards the tech line. Crew members going to be out of breath just getting the car to inspection.
It's going to take nothing short of a miracle for him to get back in the show.
You don't think he's got enough to get above 217.9?
I think it's a really difficult day today. I admire him a lot for the enthusiasm that he has, but I would say today is probably the most difficult day the cars have been on track, and it takes more than enthusiasm to figure out this place. Listening to the drivers go around and around yesterday in qualifying, I almost think you have to adjust the car when you're running. Like you have to go down and adjust the weight jack or then the roll bar, then go back again, and there's a lot of stuff you got to be doing in the car.
The yellow flag has come out on the track. That is to clear the track for this qualifying attempt. They'll have a track inspection. Vince Welch, bring us up to date on what's going on down in pit lane.
Of course, Marty Roth has teamed with John Andretti this year, and I was talking with John about yesterday's conditions, and he said he was working the weight jacker from one end to the other on a lap during qualifying. That gives you an indication of what a handful that car was yesterday. At the time we were having the discussion, a big gust of wind came up. He looked up at the pylon and he said, it's even worse today. This is a very difficult day to go fast at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That's a guy with a lot of experience around this track. Imagine how difficult it would be for those that don't have much experience at the Speedway.
So to put it in perspective, you're going around, you have to do 4 laps as perfect as you can, and every time you make an adjustment to the car, you have to take a hand off the steering wheel for probably 2 or 3 seconds, find the roll bar or the weight jacker, make the adjustment, get your hand back on the steering wheel, and you are covering the distance of a football field every second. And this is a driver who has been uncomfortable, whose times haven't been as consistent. So he's got all this in his head, and now is his chance to put the car in the 500.
Or into the wall.
Well, and that's obviously going to be on his mind because he knows this is the last day, 3 attempts per day. So that's lucky for him because usually you go out there and you sort of take what you got. And if you got bumped out of the field in the old days, Eddie, you were looking for a different car. That's not the situation now. And just behind the scenes, we obviously have people even worried about getting themselves bumped out, which is Buddy Lazier, who's the slowest driver in the field to date, even though he's in the 32nd spot. His speed's 2:17.939. And Eddie, we were saying a moment ago about, will Marty be able to get up to speed? Well, earlier today he was running not badly, about 2:18.9. With, if you could do that, that would get him in the field. But we have to remember that was out on the track with other cars, the assistance of probably a small amount of tow going around as we looked at Buddy Lazier signing a couple of autographs. And, as we get going here through the day, the wind just seems to be picking up and moving around, and that consistency that you're talking about is very difficult. We both know that around here, and if you scare yourself in one lap, you have a hard time convincing yourself the next lap that it's going to be okay.
This is not like playing football. If somebody hits you, they tell you just run it off. You're in the car and you got to do it. You don't have any choice. When you're out there by yourself and you're doing a run as other people, you put one lap in and hey, I did a 2:18. That's great. Let's celebrate. But to be out there by yourself, and this is one of your attempts, everything has got to be perfect. And in today, with the wind as it is, and his mindset following yesterday's performance where his car wasn't where he wanted it to be, it's even more difficult because the time is getting tighter and tighter and tighter.
Folks, we talk a lot about the wind because even yesterday it was treacherous, but at least it was a lot more consistent than it has been today. I mean, I keep watching the windsock here on top of the pylon, and it's just swirling from going from due west to northwest from right out of the north.
And let's put this in perspective here real quickly. When you go along, you're taking off an airplane, a commercial airplane, you're going along the runway to 160 miles an hour. The airplane rotates and lifts off the ground. If you've got a side wind, you realize how much of wind there is out there because the plane's moving around and you're not very comfortable with it, and the wings tip and what have you. We're doing 220 miles an hour with gusting winds at 15 to 20 to 25. That moves you around a fair amount.
There's a picture of the windsock, and you can just see how it's changing direction constantly. Meanwhile, the man who's on the bubble, Buddy Lazier, is with Vince Welch.
Buddy Lazier, you find yourself you've been to victory lane here, and now you find yourself on the bubble. Can you give somebody an idea of what it's like to have to wait to see if you're going to have to bump your way back into this field?
Well, I think we're planning on bumping our way back in. We're just, we had the latest start with our race car. We just started late, and these are a great bunch of guys. They've been working really hard. I have a lot of faith in them, and the track changed too just when we got started. So, it's a challenge. It's a very uncomfortable day for everybody, but it's a good car and a good team, and we'll see what we can do.
This is the remnants of the team that took you to victory lane in the Indy 500. How important is the chemistry that you've got with this Hemmelgarn-Johnson operation?
I think when you start with one day of practice and everybody's had a month, you got to have having a familiar group helps a lot. You don't have to learn each other, but it's still a battle. We started late, and uncomfortable day.
All right, you're going to have to watch Marty Roth is getting ready to try and bump you out of the field.
And my apologies, Jack. Of course, that was Jack Arute with Buddy Lazier. And look at the eyes of Marty Roth. Not focusing on any one single thing, just trying to
He's rerunning it in his head. He's doing it over and over and over again, telling himself, when I turn into one, remember what the wind was like. Don't forget to adjust the car. There's a lot of things going into his head. On a day like this, it's not just about going out and keeping your foot flat on the throttle. There's a lot of things to do. Just like Scott said with an airplane. You just don't point it down the runway, turn the engines on. It's a big effort today.
Meanwhile, Buddy Lazier sits back down, back in the garage area, and waiting for the official word. I thought that they were going to fire this car up and get going.
They always do a track inspection before the first qualifying car goes out after there's been cars running on the track for practice. So I'm sure that they're just waiting for word of that. But looking inside the helmet, it's almost like, I think I can. I think I can.
Or if I don't, I'm not going to be here.
Vince?
They're just waiting for the official word from Brian Barnhart for Marty Roth to pull out. It's interesting that this Roth Racing team is now managed by Larry Curry, and Larry Curry's son Matt Curry was the engineer on that Anthony Foyt car that bumped Roth from the field. So it's certainly been interesting from that regard. Son's car bumping dad's car out of the show, and now of course Marty Roth trying to get back in. This team has put forth unbelievable hours, man hours, to get ready. There's a shot of Larry Curry as he sits with Margaret Roth, the wife of Marty Roth. Brian Hornick, the chief mechanic, stayed here all night on Friday night getting this car ready to go on Saturday. They made major changes, and that was at the suggestion both of John Andretti and also Larry Curry. So this is a team that has made major investment in this season to run a two-car effort the entire season long, and so much rides on them making the Indianapolis 500.
And we did get word, Vince, while you were talking, the reason the track inspection took so long is because of the wind. They're going to be taking a little bit longer time out there to make sure that every potential piece of debris has been picked up. So here is Marty Roth, the two warm-up laps. Ooh, lifted big there going into one.
He's just got to calm himself down, and he's got a car that can do it, and he's capable of doing it. Now he's just got to put everything in place for these next 4 laps. So really just a question of taking one big, deep breath of air and forgetting about everything else and just riding it through. Saddle up. Time to go.
40 seconds a lap. I don't think you can hold your breath that long for 4 laps.
You'd be amazed. You'd be amazed. Take a deep breath of air and just hold on.
Okay, well, we can remember back to A.J. Foyt, the 4th's run, and the telemetry showed us he'd never lifted, but remember, he had a lot more downforce in the car. They admitted that. Here we go. He's on the green flag into turn 1.
A lot of room coming out. He's still getting up to speed.
It sounds like he was fairly on the throttle there, so that's good for him. And, you know, Marty started his racing career off on motorcycles and races throughout the country, including places like Daytona, then got up to Formula Fords, the Formula 2000, and Indy Lights, and took about 12 years off of racing just to get an opportunity to build his business, and then came back to motor racing in the Indy Lights before he's now moved up to the Indy cars full time. So he's really living a dream.
Lap tracker shows that he is in the green, which means he's ahead of Buddy Lazier's pace. First lap, 2:19.2. That's the fastest he has gone today. He practiced at 2:18, and lap tracker has him higher in the green.
What an awesome run. He's doing it. He's really doing it. He's got to keep this pace up. He's actually improving.
That's, as you said, sitting up in the saddle, standing up in the saddle. I mean, we both know what that's like right now, but the pressure is on him right now, not only from a driver, but Eddie, you are a driver and team owner. It's also the pressure as an owner, because he's the guy that's the sponsor that's writing the checks right now.
I don't really think he's thinking about that right now, but he's got to keep this pace up. So it's obviously not an easy day, and there's still time to make a mistake. He's just got to keep doing what he's doing, and he will make it well into the show.
Second lap, 2:19.055. So Larry Curry and Aldo Andretti right behind him looking on. They have a monitor that they can see, the vision screen here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And he told Marty, according to Vince, 2:18's the number. We got to be above 2:18. He's well above 2:18.
He's having a perfect run. That's actually faster, I believe, than he ran this morning.
It is. Both laps so far. And Buddy Lazier knows that if nothing else happens, he's going to be bumped out of this field. Down the front straightaway, here will be lap number 3, still well into the green on lap tracker. The speed for lap number 3, 2:18.358. That drops the average down to 2:18.870.
3 corners to go.
This is where your mind can start to play tricks on you. If you felt something with the car, are you going to take your foot off the gas or just sort of keep on with it? And right now he's got to do that. He's got to make sure perfect entry, get down to the apex, and just keep the speed up.
Well, the gear change that Vince Welch and the crew talked about obviously has paid some dividends as he's into the north chute, coming through turn 4 for the last time and still well above the green zone that will bump Buddy Lazier from the field. Here comes the checkered flag. And the final lap comes across at 2:19.2. So his 4-lap average, 2:18.965. And Marty Roth is back into the field. And that means that Buddy Lazier, there in the upper right of your screen, is going to have to bump his way back in. And now the man on the bubble is Roger Yasukawa. He qualified yesterday at 2:18.010. So again, there is Buddy, of course, the 1996 winner here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Time to sign an autograph, and right now that's the last thing that he wants to think about, because now he's got to go back into the car and qualify again. Let's relive that moment in 96 when Buddy, broken back and all, managed to win the 1996 Indianapolis 500. Stay with us. We've got a lot more coming your way after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Later today on ABC, the Cavaliers and Celtics, Game 7 from Boston. What's going on? Stuart Scott, Michael Wilbon, and John Barry here in the NBA Countdown Studios. Guys, what stands out most about a Game 7 in the NBA playoffs?
Well, it's the biggest game of the year, the greatest thrill and the greatest disappointment if you don't get it done. And I don't know why it's so special, because you don't sleep, you're miserable, you think about every play that might happen, and if you win, like I said, greatest thrill in the world.
John just said it. It's the desperation. Professional athletes on average get paid so much money, but they want this so desperately. It's close to single elimination. That's the feel.
Here's the good news for the Celtics. Game 7s, the home team wins 80% of the time. We'll see you at 3 o'clock for GMC NBA Countdown. Now let's go back to the Indy Time Trials.
Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Marty Roth is taking off his helmet. Eddie Cheever is pulling feathers from his mouth.
I totally stand corrected. That wasn't a miracle. That was just excellent driving. He really stood up in the seat and carried it all the way through.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen next week. It's the greatest spectacle in racing, the Indy 500. It's on ABC. The 92nd Indianapolis 500 telecast presented by GoDaddy.com. And our coverage begins at 11 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Continues at noon Eastern next Sunday on ABC. And let's send it down now to Brianne Pettigo.
Marty Roth bumping your way back into the field. Compare this run with yesterday's. How good did that qualifying run feel for you?
It feels great. You know, we were really disappointed yesterday. We just there was an open spot there at the bottom, and we knew our speeds weren't up there, so we just decided to fill that spot anyway. But we knew it would come down to today, and you know, we worked hard at it and just kept plugging away, and you know, we wanted to bump ourselves up at least up into the 19s, but you know, we're close enough. So you know, we'll see how the rest of the day transpires. Hopefully I won't have to do that run again.
Have you sized up your competition for today, and do you think you could find more speed if you need it?
I think we weren't trimmed out all the way. We felt, you know, it's better to get that car stuck, and you know, that was our focus. There's a lot of trimming to do on the car still, but you know, at this late date, you know, if you wad it up into the wall, you're not going to have a chance to fix it, and your day will be done anyway. So it's not like you're going for pole or anything. You just got to stick to the focus on those bottom 2 rows and keep it in the show. Play it safe.
Risk versus reward, Jack.
Well, no sooner than Marty Roth bumped his way into the field than the guy that finds himself on the bubble, Roger Yasukawa, decided to make a run out here. Roger, describe your sleep last night. You said being Japanese, you could sleep well. What about now, knowing that you're the guy that could be bumped out of this field?
Yeah, I mean, I was able to get to sleep early, but tell you the truth, I was up at 5 this morning. So, you know, we're going to get ready to go out and see how the car runs. The car was pretty good in the run yesterday. I think, you know, we might have used some tall gear. So more speed. So, we'll see how it goes. But, I think we're going to be shooting for mid-219s.
So what's the plan? Will you try and just shake it down and go as soon as possible, or will you take advantage of this weather?
Well, I think, right now we're going to see what the car does and what kind of speed we could get from the car. And, if it's all well and if we know we could do 219s, then we might go out. If not, we might wait until what the other guy's going to run.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Roger Yasukawa has a smile on his face, but butterflies in his stomach as he knows that he's the next victim to be bumped from the field, as Buddy Lazier has now been bumped out as Marty Roth puts his car in the number 33 position. And right now the track is open for practice, and there is our pole sitter Scott Dixon shaking out his primary car. Now this team, Ganassi's team, has not brought out its T cars at all this month, going around Will Power, and this goes back to doing a little bit of that work you were talking about in the open of the broadcast, Eddie.
You can really divide the month in two separate boxes. One is the box where you qualify, and then there's the more important one, how you prepare your car for the race. So what everybody's doing out there right now is seeing how their car works in traffic. To define traffic a little bit better, when the car is running by itself, the car is very efficient and it gives you a lot of downforce. The minute you get behind a car like Dixon is now, that car in front of you is taking away a lot of the air. He's making the air upset so that you don't have such a good handling car. And that was a bit of a handful. And so you have to compromise your line and you have to compromise the setup of the car. And it's just not one lap or one corner. You have to do it for different conditions. If there's a west wind, you do one thing. If there's a north wind, you do another. So it's very difficult to get the car so you're comfortable and you can drive aggressively the whole race.
Getting a look at his teammate Dan Weldon, and he's coming up on Oriol Servia in the number 5 KV racing machine. There's his fastest lap today at 2:20 in full race trim. If you were with us yesterday, you may have seen the segment we did on our virtual racing qualifying. And let's take you back, if you weren't with us, to show you what virtual Indy is all about.
This is so very cool because essentially both these drivers were on the way to the pole, and the difference was the final lap, the 4th lap of their run. And when you watch the cars here, you can just watch the speed at the bottom of the screen, with Dixon just starting to increase his speed just a little bit. And Dixon's the car on the left that's now in the lead, and Weldon's the car on the backside. And you can see the difference in the lines and the difference in the speeds. And we really estimate that this is the difference between being on pole and being on second. And you can see the different lines as they're running also. We saw this very much last year, Eddie, between the pole sitter and the second place car between Castroneves and Tony Kanaan. It came down to the 4th and final lap.
Didn't we work out the amount of feet that Weldon did more than Dixon was? 16 feet. He traveled 16 feet more
on the final lap. 52 feet total for the 4-lap run.
So
he's 16 feet on the final lap, and you can just watch the RPMs and the speed and the steering angle and just 2 different lines. And when you start to do that over those 4 laps, as you mentioned, we're really speculating that one driver is traveling a further distance than the other. And this would be probably something they're very interested in. As we watch here, the ribbons on the racetrack are the laps that they ran previously, the previous lap that they had. You can see there again the red ribbon being Weldon and the white ribbon on the right-hand side being Scott Dixon.
And they have 2 different styles. One goes in higher and later. The other one goes a little bit earlier. And you can tell that it's almost as if there's a red line painted on the floor on the road for Dixon. I'm sorry, for Weldon, and a white one for Dixon. And they keep replicating the same thing. This has been your favorite toy, hasn't it, Scott? All month. You like this, don't you?
And back to the live action on the track as Dan Weldon continues to practice here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And he has done very well, moved up to the 220 range, and the last lap was at 218. Meanwhile, we've caught up with Marco Andretti. Vince Welch, you've got him.
And sitting here with Tony Kanaan as well, and TK's in his driver's suit. He's done some running today, running Hideki's car. What was your objective to get into your teammate's car this morning?
It was a team decision. Hideki struggled yesterday. If you guys don't know, he had a little incident at the end, so he wasn't comfortable with his car. I kind of offered to try to see if it was something wrong, or that it was different than my car. We put the same setup on. It was pretty good this morning, so he feels very comfortable right now, and I'm pretty happy for him because he's back in pace. being a rookie, I believe that you know, he needed that extra confidence. I would not like to be a rookie and crash before Carb Day and not to run. So we did it for him, and as a team, we worked together a lot, and that was the reason for it.
How about yesterday? You weren't completely happy with the way your car was handling, and I believe you put the setup of the teammate next to you, Marco, on. What did you learn from that change?
Well, Marco had a good car all week long, and what I learned is that his setup was better than mine. So as a team, we worked different directions to meet at the same point at some point of the day, and that's what we did. And I think we're both extremely happy right now. And look at him; he's not even running today. So I guess we're definitely we'll be competitive for sure.
Yeah, one more for you. What do you look at as you stand here and you watch the cars go by? Scott Dixon's car just rolled by, and you took a look, I think, at that rear wing angle. What are some of the things you're looking maybe to glean from some of the guys that are still running today?
No, we're just looking rear wing angle, the speeds that they do, just to see what they're doing, if they're playing with us or if they're not. I mean,
playing with you, you're not saying there'd be mind games going on out here on a day like today, would there?
Not at all. You know, he was he was very low in his rear wing, so I have to say, doing 221s out there, they probably tried to do something with us, but we're pretty confident with what we have, so I don't think we should worry about it. I was just really curious to see what he had in his car.
Yeah, now I'm going to walk across here and sit with Marco a moment and chat a little bit, because I tell you what, this guy was the happiest one of the bunch of this four-member Andretti Green team yesterday. What made you so happy with your race car yesterday afternoon?
We've just been working, really. I think the whole Indiana Jones Blockbuster crew is just, everything's just happening to go right so far. And I think what's really going to tell us if we're going to be strong in the race is if we roll off on Carb Day just as strong. And I think if we do that, I'll be looking forward to the race for sure.
What type of race pace do you anticipate next Sunday?
I think it's going to be really all over the place. You know, I think there's going to be a couple groups of slower cars, and traffic's going to be interesting. So it's going to be a different kind of Indy 500. I think maybe a bit slower, but obviously if you're able to keep it flat in a big toe, you're going to see some big times as well.
How much does confidence fluctuate during the course of the month of May, and then as we start getting closer, you'll be on track one more time, Carburation Day next Friday, prior to the race a week from today?
Yeah, it's a roller coaster. You know, that's the month of May. I mean, it's always been like that at Indianapolis. You know, all you can do is keep your head and you know, just try to stay focused and don't give up.
He was as confident as they could be yesterday. We'll see if that confidence level stays out, Mark.
Well, he does have the fastest lap of the month so far, 2:28 and change. And there you see his number 26 in the 7th position. He qualified his 4-lap average at 2:24.417. Of course, our pole sitter is Scott Dixon. He is in pit lane, out of the car, helmets off. Iceman's got his game face on. We'll talk to him when we come back. Practice going on here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Ed Carpenter and Dan Weldon doing a little two-step there as Weldon gets around him. Now Ed will try and work his way back using the draft. We'll talk more about that, but right now it's time for our GoDaddy.com trivia question. And Scott Dixon gave Ganassi Racing its 3rd Indianapolis 500 pole. Who was the last driver to win the pole for Team Ganassi? The clock is ticking, gentlemen. Ding, 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 ding.
That's my nerd friend next to me. He has all these.
Okay, nerd friend.
And I'll probably get this wrong then. I was going to say Montoya in 2000.
That's wrong. Would you like a guess?
Oh, I'm not. I'm the
nerd squared.
Nerd squared.
I have like 3 things in my brain. That's not one of them.
Here comes the answer onto the screen. The answer is Bruno Junqueira back in 2002. So we stumped both of them, folks. All right. Let's go back and show you Bruno's pole effort back in 2002.
Now, you were still driving that. How come you didn't remember that?
I had no interest for it.
You were only worried about one guy.
I can recite a bunch of telephone numbers if you want. That's about it.
And I don't want to go down that road. And there is Bruno accepting the check back in 2002. All right, back on track. That is Buddy Lazier working some of the bugs out and checking on the scoreboard. Buddy has practiced at 2:18 for his fastest lap. His last one was at 2:10, and he's bringing it in. So that's not going to be good enough to get back in to the field. We promised to chat with our pole sitter. Jack Root is with him now.
Pole sitter Scott Dixon, the first driver from New Zealand to sit on the pole. Scott, once you figure out full tanks and all the mechanical issues with the race car, how much jousting are you doing with other drivers? How much out there are you trying to let them know and test them to know where their strong suit is and what their weak suit is?
Yeah, I think the whole time you're just out there, you're just trying to improve the car. And every lap in race trim and behind another car, you're going to learn something. And, you know, so far, our car, the 9 car, seems to be pretty strong. We're pretty happy with it. And any car that we've come across, we've been able to pass. The big problem this year is going to be trying to work out what level of downforce to run. You need to run low drag so you can pass these cars. If you run too much, you just get stuck behind them. So this morning, we've just kept trimming out to see how much we can go down and see how it does for race conditions.
Well, what about philosophically? Do you want to show your entire hand during practice, or do you guys leave a little something back?
You show a little bit, man. You never show it all. So I think, you know, everybody's doing the same, but, you know, we're pretty happy at this point.
When you take a look at the race, you're alluding to the fact that race traffic will likely play a critical role. So what do you do in race traffic to give you the advantage over some other guys that are fast?
Yeah, I think for us, it's, you know, it's not so much, you know, the first people that you get to in lap traffic, they're normally a lot slower. It's once you start getting to the mid-pack is the trouble that you have. And, you know, for me as a driver, we've tried to keep the car pretty similar because you get used to it and how to manipulate it and how to work it in different lines and things like that. So for me out there, I've been just trying to get, you know, low, try high, try a little bit here and there, just to, you know, keep that in the back of your mind for the race. And when you get into that situation in the race, you can pass those guys with no problems.
You know, when you first came on board the IndyCar Series, I gave you the nickname the Iceman. I'm sorry, because you are more animated. You do have a personality. Do you regret the fact that now people know you as the Iceman?
No, you know, it's just a fine name, and I think Iceman sounds kind of cool, right? What's your nickname? Come on. Do we want to go there?
Scarecrow, because if I only had a brain.
Oh, good stuff, Jack. And I'll tell you what, when he puts that helmet on, he is Iceman, but you can hear when a driver loves his race car, he is extremely confident right now.
What I really found interesting in that is that just 3 minutes ago we were interviewing Kanaan, and Kanaan said he saw the Ganassi's car be pulled back, and he said they're running very little rear wing. Are they trying to psych you? And of course, you're always doing that all day right before on your last session. And it was interesting to hear Dixon say we have been continuously taking wing out of this. So if you have a good balance, and it's not just aerodynamic, it's also getting as much mechanical balance as you can and mechanical grip. If you can do that and be high and low, like he said on the track, with very little downforce in, you have a big advantage.
Well, and the one thing that can happen in a moment here, if the weather changes, you can lose the balance through no fault of your own. So that's why nobody gets too cocky around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Scott Dixon, of course, has a lot more interest than just racing. Here's one of them.
Flying, and it just keeps your mind going 100% of the time. You're constantly thinking ahead. You know, you're making radio calls, you're trying to stay away from weather, and last minute, I guess, trying to land the thing, which gets exciting sometimes and some pretty bad wind. But no, I think it's definitely the challenge of it. I think I started right before the Detroit race last year, but I kicked it into gear and ended up getting it just before Christmas. I'm actually working on my instrument rating now, so which allows you to fly in the clouds and stuff like that. There's no traffic. You have to deal with slow people in the fast lanes and things like that. But no, I think it's convenient, but also challenging. Takeoff's easy, man. Anybody can do that. You just go fast and pull back on the stick. Landing is definitely a lot harder than taking off.
And of course, as you watch Buddy Lazier, our favorite Dancing with the Stars competitor is Helio Castroneves, the winner last season. In fact, he is going to be at the finale. Told Jack Arute that just yesterday. In fact, all 33 qualifiers will be heading after today to New York City for the annual photo up there in Times Square. That's always fun. Meanwhile, Buddy Lazier continues to practice to try and get up enough speed to get back into the field. And as he continues to work this 2.5-mile oval, He is currently running at 2:18 for his best lap. His last lap was at 2:09.
You know, Marty, this is very difficult for Buddy Lazier because he obviously has a talent. He's a very good race car driver. He's won the Indianapolis 500. He's won the IRL championship in 2000. I know that I finished second to him that year in the points championship. But it's very difficult to come out here for one event, especially when the car and the team really come out of mothballs, Eddie Cheever, and there's not the updates on this race car. And here it's about putting your foot in the gas and the mechanical grip of the car and the aerodynamic ability of the car to go fast down the straightaway. And if you don't have the mechanical ability, you put more wing on it to get it through the turns, and it's just a snowball that just doesn't get any better, because for him, it's going to be tough to find the speed, I think, to get back in the field.
And he's wise enough to know that he can't carry it around. But if you look at the lineup of all these cars, they all say they're a Dallara Honda, but they're not just Dallara Hondas. There are a little bit of Penske on one. There's a little bit of Ganassi on one. You see all these goofy mirrors that they have. There's lots of stuff that every team spends, the larger teams spend a lot of money on. And if you're not there every month managing to keep up with them, you fall behind. And once these cars are slow with drag, there's nothing you can do.
Jack Arute, you've got more?
Yeah, let me give you an idea. For Roger Penske, won a couple of years ago when they went into the rear view mirror development. They spent over $150,000 in just wind tunnel testing for the way the rear view mirror is positioned on the side pods. For Buddy Lazier's Hemmelgarn Johnson team, though, it was putting updates on last year's chassis. And in fact, that was one of the reasons why they were so late getting out on the racetrack. And I quote from Ron Hemmelgarn, Jack, if we had bought a new car, it would have been less time and less agitation.
Well, it doesn't surprise us sometimes. I mean, with all the little developments that each one of these teams try to put into the mix. You know, you mentioned Team Penske. We talked about Helio Castroneves. Of course, his teammate is Ryan Briscoe. And Ryan had a unique opportunity because he was with Helio through this whole Dancing with the Stars process. So we sort of tapped his brain on that.
It was pretty cool just seeing someone you know, and someone you know isn't a dancer, doing so well on a show. The whole team was behind him, and we'd get together on Monday night, sort of a Monday night event for us all. A group of us would get together and go to someone's house and watch Helio. I'd text message him and send him my best and say well done, and it was funny. Sometimes he'd reply back like minutes after the show was over, and you think, what, does he dance with his phone in his pocket or something?
And Helio in his banana suit. And, of course, Ryan's month of May was doing extremely well right up until the moment that he hit the wall a couple days ago in the 6T car. Let's take you back to that, as this was a hard hit.
A very big hit and really destroyed the back of the car. Fortunately for him, he was able to get out of it, and he had a situation where I think his confidence was shaken just a little bit.
Well, and Jack Arute managed to catch up with him a little bit earlier today.
Well, practice has been completed for Ryan Briscoe, and all that lies ahead of you now, Ryan, is well, carburation day to shake down the race car. But you've had the pressure of having to shake down the race car to finish all of your advanced work. What was that like in the last couple of days?
No, it's been good. I mean, really, everything's going to plan, and the race car is in real good condition. And we just took it out to the track, so he did a couple of laps, and it felt great. So we're looking in good shape.
A lot of debate right now as to first at the beginning of the month here. We talked about what it was going to take to win the pole. Then we talked about what it was going to take to bump your way into the field. Now that all that remains is, what do you think the race pace is going to be, and how do you think this race is going to unfold a week from today?
Well, I mean, as we get close, we'll have to look at the weather and everything, and the race pace is always quite a bit slower than qualifying, but as long as we're just a little bit quicker than our rivals, then that's enough. So I don't care what speed it is, as long as we're a bit quicker than the others.
What's important, though, during the race in terms of what you do with the race car and how the race car feels? What do you want most out of your race car?
Consistency is important. It has to work well in traffic, and but it's going to change over the course of a race. It's a long race, and it cools off in the afternoon a bit, and rubber goes down on the track. So, we'll just have to keep after it, make sure we got some good tools to work with during the race, make sure our pit stops are spot on all the time. We're looking at like 10 pit stops during the race, so that's a lot of work for the crew guys as well, and I've got to make sure I'm hitting my marks right. So, there are a lot of things that have to come together right, and we'll have to be on our game. But, you know, I've got a lot of confidence in the team, and the car's feeling great, so I'm looking forward to it.
What about race traffic? Can you describe what that does to your rhythm when you come up on race traffic?
You know, you want to keep some momentum, but it's a long race, and you got to be smart about some of the choices made out there, and sometimes you're better off just following a lap car maybe or something. But, you know, we'll see. I think the car so far has been working really well in dirty air and traffic, so now it'll just be a question as to what the weather's going to do and, you know, what sort of downforce we put on the car.
So after a daily routine of having to show up here and take the car out and put it through its paces, now you have to wait for almost an entire week before you get back in the cockpit. Good or bad for Ryan Briscoe?
Well, it's all right. You know, I don't mind, and I'm a pretty patient guy, so, you know, we got a lot of activities going on during the week, though, and I'm going to New York tonight and come back tomorrow afternoon. Got a bit of golf on Tuesday. So, you know, there are different things going on, and we just try to stay cool, calm, and collected all week, and in anticipation for the big one.
Good luck, Ryan.
Thanks.
He did a total of 8 laps in that practice this morning. His best speed was 2:17 as they were shaking down the primary car. Want to remind you to join ESPN.com for a live chat during Bump Day. All you have to do is go to search and type in Indy Chat. We'll be online today from 1 to 6 p.m. Eastern, and we'll have a live chat with the final qualifier tonight at 7:45. Indy Chat on ESPN.com. The key word again, Indy Chat. There's Justin Wilson. He's on the inside of row number 6. We'll talk to him when we come back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. The 92nd Indianapolis 500 Bump Day telecast presented by GoDaddy.com, where you can make the web your domain with a .com name for as low as $1.99. Scott's Turf Builder Water Smart Formula. Build a healthier lawn using less water. And Budweiser. Reach for the perfect balance of flavor and refreshment. Budweiser, the great American lager. Track is yellow as you look at the number 14, A.J. Foyt Coyote. Look at that logo. That's one of the classic cars that you'll see at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Hall of Fame Museum. That is in the primo spot. That is as you first come in the entryway. And off to the left there's the Marmon Wasp just in the background. From 1911, Ray Haroon, the driver of that winner. And as we take a look, there's the outside of the museum. Let's get an update on the couple of drivers who are trying to make it into the show. Max Pappas and Mario Dominguez. Brianne Pettigo.
Marty, both of these drivers are really just struggling to find the speed they need to get into the field, and they're also looking to build the driver confidence. You know, these guys are coming from relatively newly built race cars, and getting back out there with the wind the way it is, both of them are having trouble getting comfortable in the car. Both teams expected to have made a qualifying run by this point, but they're finding that they're just not as close as they thought they were. They've got till 6 o'clock.
Well, and the problem is the wind is not diminishing, but the heat on the track is getting higher. So both are not good news for either of those guys. So as we get the track going back to green for practice, let's take you back in case you weren't with us and show you what happened to Mario Dominguez as he and the wall had a close encounter of the wrong kind.
And it was wrong for him on the entrance to the turn because he was already down below the white line, already with the front wheels in the grass, and slapped that wall, and that could have been much more serious than what it was.
And then Eddie Max Pappas, also one of our drivers trying to make it into the field, he had this incident.
But he's had great runs here at Indy. Both of them have been with us. I think he's just got loose going in. We tried something that probably he shouldn't have done, and that put his whole month back a big amount. This morning he hasn't been doing anything this morning. They haven't got any speeds to talk of yet. And these cars don't work unless you get them above 215, 216. They're just aerodynamically uncomfortable. They're unstable. So you've got to reach a speed platform so that you create enough downforce so you can get around these corners, especially on a day like today. There's so much wind.
Well, we've got a moment. Let's remind you what's going to be happening a little bit later today. We sign off here at 3 o'clock, but at 4 o'clock you can join us on ESPN2 as the Indianapolis 500 Bump Day telecast presented by GoDaddy.com will continue. And right now will continue as we head down trackside with Vince Welch.
standing by with Justin Wilson, and Justin's already in the field, 16th as it stands now. He's had a successful career in Formula One, was the Champ Car Series runner-up the last 2 years. How's your transition in your first Indianapolis 500?
It's been fun. I'm just very glad to get the McDonald's car in the field, and I think we got a good starting position, relative to our experience. So I'm very pleased with the progress we've made.
What's been the biggest surprise for you here at Indianapolis?
It's just trying to build up the speed and get the car to go quicker, and it just takes time. So there's no great surprise. I tried to listen to all the advice that people have given me, and that helps a lot.
You had a close call a couple of days ago. We're going to take a look at that. Maybe explain how you were feeling at that time.
Pretty tense at that point. So, I was just going through the corner and the back stepped out, and it just, I don't know why, but it came back in line. I was able to carry on, but as you're going up towards the wall, you think this is not good. This is not the way I want it to be, and especially the day before qualifying.
It can be a tough month for drivers here at Indianapolis for a variety of different reasons. For instance, you and your wife had a baby born in April 12th, Jane Louise. How often have you seen her this month?
I was there for 1 day at the start of the month, and actually I got to go back last weekend just for a day, so a total of 2 days, but it's not enough. I miss them both, and it's tough being away from both Jane and Julia. I just can't wait to get back and to be with them.
Yeah, makes his home in the Denver, Colorado area, and certainly it is a stressful time, both physically and mentally in the car, and then also when you're away from your family for so long during the month.
Justin, Jane, Julia, I don't think they'll have to worry about the embroidery on the towels. JW will work across the board. Cars out on track right now in a practice session as we are seeing small increments of speed, but not enough from the cars that need to bump their way into the field. Max Papis is one of them.
Ryan Briscoe, car number 6, Team Penske from Sydney, Australia. If you don't see me in my car, I'll be out on the water having fun.
Tony Kanaan, car number 11, Team 711, Andretti Green Racing, Salvador Bahia, Brazil. When I'm not in the car, lately, I'm changing diapers.
My favorite tradition was that it took a whole month. You had your reservation at the motel over there, and you wanted it for 2 days, you took it for the whole month.
I think qualifying provides the most electrifying ambiance.
That kind of vibe and atmosphere of the morning of the day of the race, and as soon as they say, okay, gentlemen, start your engines, it's time to go.
The start of the race, because that's when everybody leaves me alone and I'm there to do what I'm supposed to do, which is race.
My most favorite tradition here is drinking the milk in Victory Lane, no doubt about it.
Just some of the great traditions here at Indianapolis. Some of the drivers that have run here at Indy for Newman Haas Lanigan Racing, including Mario, Michael Andretti, Nigel Mansell, Paul Tracy, Bruno Junqueira, Sebastian Bourdais, and they have never won here at Indy. That's probably the most astounding statistic when you look at the names on that list. And there's Justin Wilson signing some autographs. And there's also an interesting story involving Paul Newman and the reason he sort of stayed away from the track for a while, Jackaroot.
Yeah, Marty, an awful lot of people feel that one of the reasons why Paul Newman stayed away from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway was his dissatisfaction with the formation of the Indy Racing League. Well, some people like to buy into that story, but tradition tells another story, that he had been away from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for several years prior to the formation of the league, and it all revolves around his dedication to his team. He wanted to reward his crew members by feeding them daily, and he was on his way into Gasoline Alley with some healthy food, some gourmet-style food, and because it wasn't from, at that time, the only recognized caterer, he was told he couldn't bring it in. Paul Newman, being the guy that he is, packed up his bags and left.
And I wonder if any of that was Newman's own. All right, as you see, the pylon is full, but the tech line is empty. We are in practice. In fact, right now, it is under yellow because we had the 98 car having a bit of an issue, and they needed to tow him in. He just ran out of fire on the back stretch. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on later today, because you always talk about Game 7s being so important. Well, at 3:30 Eastern, the Cavs and the Celtics, one goes on to the finals to meet the Pistons, and the other looks back and says, oh, what happened? You'll see it today on ABC at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Can you believe this? Scott Dixon, our pole sitter, he's back in the car. This one sort of surprises us, especially when he's #1 on the charts at 221 in practice today.
Qualifying for a place, at least I know with who I race. How fast can you run?
It is Bump Day here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but it is also the Speedway Salute to Armed Forces Day. And we also want to talk about the fact that the Speedway is a proud supporter of America Supports You. It's a Department of Defense program that showcases America's support for the military men and women and their families. And to learn more about how you can help the troops, visit americasupportsyou.mil. And we're under yellow right now as it is a track inspection after the 98 car of Roger Yasukawa had to be towed in. Nothing serious, no contact with the wall. Speaking of close calls, as there's Max Pappas and Oriol Servia as they're trading some notes, and Servia obviously trying to help Max get up to speed. The car has not been that quick. In fact, fastest lap for Max right now has been 214 miles an hour. That's not anywhere near close enough. We talked a little bit about close calls. Now let's talk a little bit about Graham Rahal. He had a couple of close moments. Let's take you back early in the month of May when you really loved this move.
Yeah, that is awesome. That is a mixture of youth, luck, incredible skill, and being a Rahal, I guess.
And then there's the May 16th practice where he did make contact with the wall, but no serious damage. As we'll check in now. There's Vince Welch with him.
Eddie Cheever and Scott Goodyear still can't get over how you saved that wiggle. Was that luck or talent?
I think it's just luck when it gets to that point, because in these cars, I mean, and Eddie and Scott both would know, but I mean, when they go, and it's so hard to catch it at that speed. I mean, the wiggle earlier in the month, that's just luck.
How would you describe how your month has been? You're 19 years old at the Indianapolis 500 for the first time. What's the experience been like for you?
Well, I mean, it's been pretty busy. I mean, obviously there's a lot of media stuff. You know, being on track every single day, I don't think I've ever in my whole life run as many days consecutively in the car. But I mean, overall, it's needed, because obviously this is the crown jewel. Everybody wants to win this one, so you know, it takes a lot of preparation. I think finally we're getting to the point here where we feel like we've got a really good race car, and just going to look forward to the race.
Let's talk about that race car a little bit. You were running out in a pack with Dan Weldon and Ed Carpenter. How competitive did you feel with those two?
Well, I think that we're probably a little bit quicker than Ed. I'm not really sure, but Dan, I think the Ganassi boys are they're pretty strong right now, and it's going to be tough to catch them. But of course, you know, we feel good about our race car. I mean, they're only a couple hundredths quicker than us on the mile-an-hour chart right now, so it's really nothing. I mean, I think we're in a pretty good position right now.
As we look at Scott Dixon on the track, continuing to log practice laps, what did you feel like you got accomplished today?
Well, I mean, we came out this morning with a bit of a different setup from what we started with a couple days ago when we were doing race runs, and I just didn't like the car, so we went back to what we ran the other day, and it's very consistent. And I think over a whole run, I mean, that's what counts. I mean, maybe you don't have the ultimate pace, but if you can do that for 25 laps in a stint, you're going to be pretty tough to beat.
Before we let you go, how much have you thought about the 500 miles that you'll turn next Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I've never done a 500-miler before, so obviously I'm looking forward to that. And as I said, you know, right now, with all the confidence we have in this race car, I think that we do have a good shot at it, and we're starting in a good place. So, you know, it's just a matter of moving forward. And of course, you know, 500 miles is a long time. It's going to be a long race, and anything can happen.
His dad drank the milk in 1986. Can you imagine the headlines if Graham Rahal at 19 years old would win win the 92nd running of the Indy 500 next Sunday. Marty.
Isn't that the truth? He's third on the charts today in full tank trim behind Scott Dixon and Dan Weldon. As we continue to watch Dixon, you wanted to add something about Graham.
Well, we keep talking about the fact that he's 19, and for us that's a big deal because he's doing so well. But, you know, for him, he doesn't really know any better. He's 19. That's as old as he's ever been. So hey, when we keep saying that to him, he's probably thinking, what's the matter with you guys? I'm 19. That doesn't mean I can't do it. He's already proved that he can. So I was remembering when I was 19, and everybody keeps telling me that it doesn't really make any difference to them. They just go and do it at that age.
That's true, but still.
But like you said, he's 19.
I can't remember where I was at 19. Bobby Rahal certainly can, as he looks out and surveys the tracks area and looks over and sees that Graham's doing another interview with someone. Total of now 27 laps turned by Scott Dixon, or 24 laps, as we move back into the Hall of Fame Museum, and there's Bobby's winning picture. You're watching ESPN on ABC.
We watch the Indianapolis 500 from Pit Road Terrace, Section 38, Row G. The one thing that I like about them is that we are sitting virtually in the pit area. There's more to the Indianapolis 500 than just the race itself. It's a day-long event.
That's all you need to see to know that this really is the biggest race in the world.
That has been a fun segment. We've had it all month long, and there's the section where they sit, and they do have a great view of the race action. You'll have a great view also, because the greatest spectacle in racing, the Indianapolis 500, is on ABC. Our telecast presented by GoDaddy.com. Our coverage begins at 11 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2, and then continues at noon Eastern next Sunday on ABC TV. And after turning 26 total laps, now Scott Dixon has brought the number 9 pole-sitting machine for Target Ganassi Racing back into the pit lane. Let's check in with the man who calls the shots on that car, Mike Hawley's with Jack Arute.
And Marty, you'll notice that Scott Dixon is not getting out of the cars. Roger Penske's teams have loaded up, and they've called it a day, and yet Target Chip Ganassi's operation is out here practicing. Why?
Well, we're lucky to have the racetrack today like it is, and you try to get ready for the race as close to the race as you can, and we're lucky enough to have tires left, so we'll take advantage of it for a while today.
You've begun to demoralize some people, though, with what you've been able to accomplish in some very difficult wind conditions. We've heard Tony Kanaan and others talking about, boy, these guys are going to be just so tough to beat. How important is it going into an Indy 500 to be the rabbit rather than the hound?
Well, we've been the hound a lot. We know what hounds carry around with them. So we're happy to be on the other end. But, the conditions today are actually, we think, better than yesterday. So if you had your choice between running yesterday and running today, today's actually a better day. We don't have quite the track temperature we had yesterday. So in a way, what we accomplished yesterday was really good, and it propelled us to where we are today. So we'll get a little more out of today as the rabbits.
Mike, prior to running for the pole position, which you won, and then, of course, the middle of the front row with Dan Weldon, you spent a lot of time trying to get a clean lap. Now you guys have been running in traffic by design. What do you want to learn from that traffic run?
Well, what you try to do is you try to understand where you're going to be at various stages of the race on the downforce level, because as soon as you get behind any car on the racetrack or a pack of race cars, no matter what speed they're going, it takes aero off the car, and you have to be able to create momentum to pass people with a specific aero load based on track condition. And so that's what we work on the hardest, along with the mechanical advantage that goes with that aero package.
So there's really no truth to the rumor that you're out here because you want to watch the rest of Bump Day because you're privately pulling for Mario Dominguez?
Well, we really enjoyed the mariachi band they had here the other day, and we're really hoping he makes it back in.
Vince, vote for the band.
Well, I can tell you that Mike Hall's probably keeping an eye on this guy as well. It is Alex Lloyd, and he is one of the drivers in that Ganassi stable, actually part of a unique operation this month here at Indianapolis, where he's it's a combination between Ganassi Racing and Rahal Letterman Racing. Alex, how has that partnership worked out for you this month?
It's worked out good. Yeah, I mean, it's been, I think, probably trickier for the teams in terms of trying to figure out how it all works together and how two different teams come together. For me as a driver, you know, they provide me the car, I'll get in and do the best job I can. So it's been nice to have two teams with, you know, so much experience behind me to kind of to help me along this learning period, because it's definitely, you know, it's always hard coming to Indianapolis for your first 500, but never having driven the car on an oval before as well makes it an additional, it makes it additionally very tricky. So to have that extra expertise is very helpful for me.
We know you've had some ups and downs this month. You were involved in an incident. How did you bounce back from that mentally? Was that difficult?
No, not really. I mean, you know, we had a problem on Friday that caused an accident. You know, it happens. You know, you know, I'm not the first person to have it happen to, and you know, won't be the last, and haven't been the last since then. There's been plenty of guys having a similar thing, and yeah, as a driver, you just got to get back in and do it. I mean, it's the first time I've actually had an accident on an oval, so I mean, that's nice to get out of your system, I suppose. But you know, you just get back in the car, do your job. I mean, that's what you get paid to do. So you know, you just got to keep doing what you're doing, and you know, and drive the car to the limit.
Yeah, with Andy Brown as his engineer and the expertise of both Ganassi and Rahal Letterman, don't be surprised to see a good performance by this guy, despite being a rookie, at Sunday's Indy 500.
All right, thanks, Vince. And as you finished up, Mario Dominguez, there he is out on the track right now. One of the cars yet to make it into the field. He has practiced at 217, which is not good enough. Remember, you're going to have to run 218.010 or better over your 4-lap average just to make it into the field and bump out Roger Yasukawa. While we've got a moment, let's remind you the season finale you cannot afford to miss is coming up. The juiciest season finale ever. Get a taste of the future on Wisteria Lane. Desperate Housewives, shocking 2-hour season finale tonight at 9, 8 Central on ABC. All right, we're going to step aside just for a moment as you continue to watch Mario Dominguez. We are under practice conditions here on Bump Day. You're watching ESPN on ABC. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you're watching Sarah Fisher as she has brought her 67 Dallara out onto the track. Her fastest lap there today, 2:13. Of course, she's qualified on the inside of row number 8. We'll talk a little bit more about Sarah in just a second. But first, we want to look at how Indy goes green from ethanol. In fact, some of the interesting tidbits that you may not realize here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The balloons that are used in the opening ceremony, they're biodegradable. The extra food that is sent to the local shelters. The Indy cars and pace cars, of course, run on 100% fuel-grade ethanol. And then the recycled concrete from the track was used as walls, support walls, over in the golf course. And then, of course, there are recycling programs for the oil and the Firestone tires. All right, let's go back and talk a little bit more about Sarah Fisher, because, guys, we did not get a chance to show her run yesterday. That's just about the time when all the drama started, right near the end of day 3 of qualifying. She put it in with 221.246, the 4-lap average. And considering all the financial difficulties with the sponsor pulling out at the last minute, this was really a do-or-die effort.
You know, it's a situation also where she's not run all season. She was running last year in the IndyCar season. So it's like we were talking about with Buddy Lazier. Difficult to come here for the month of May and then go out here and try to qualify for the event. But she's not only doing it as a driver, she's doing it as an owner with a new team that they have just formed with her and her family. And I think, guys, she has done a very, very good job, and she's running competitive speeds for being around the middle of the field. You can't expect her to be up there where all the big teams are with the huge budgets, so give her a lot of credit.
Well, and Jack Arute, by qualifying, she's guaranteed a minimum of $270,000, and that's needed cash.
Much needed cash, and you may wonder why the paint scheme and why the number. Well, at age 19, Sarah Fisher burst onto the IndyCar scene, and after running midgets for her dad in that color livery and with that number. An awful lot of us thought that Sarah Fisher would become the first female to win an IndyCar race. Well, that title has been passed on to Danica Patrick earlier this year in Motegi, Japan. You might think that maybe Sarah Fisher might have been a bit disappointed by that. But Danica told me just a couple of days ago that the first person to knock on her motorhome door when she arrived here at Indianapolis was Sarah Fisher herself, with a handwritten personal note of congratulations.
And nice touch of class. And Sarah, of course, right now just trying to find the race setup.
She has quite a lot of experience around here, though. She's done lots of laps. Where did she finish that one race in Kentucky? She finished second, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
So from second to first, that's the difference of history, isn't it?
Let's go back and show you her run from yesterday, because it was a very solid effort. I'm sorry, as we're talking about A.J. Foyt Enterprises from yesterday. My bad, guys. And this was interesting because that was the run by Jeff Simmons.
You missed it. That was the second time by.
He's on it, though, right? A.J. missed giving the green flag.
Okay, sorry about that. They turned the yellow on. Yellow's on. Yellow.
And as A.J. realized that he had made one of the few errors in 51 years of coming to the track, Brienne has the driver, Jeff Simmons.
That's right, Marty. Jeff Simmons just got a chance to see that firsthand. You're getting a kick out of that. AJ's not around, so you're safe. Did you really say he had a senior moment?
Well, yeah, AJ's pretty sharp, but I think he might have had his first senior moment yesterday. I haven't seen that before. That was the first time, and it looks like I don't know, he's just like waving to me as I went by. I don't know. I think he thought he was congratulating Darren from finishing that run. But hey, it was no big deal. I don't think it really had that big of an impact on how we ran.
Now, you'll be a driver that'll do the Indy Lights race on Carburation Day and the Indianapolis 500. Do you benefit from having extra track time, or is it a bit of a distraction from the race on Sunday?
I don't think it hurts at all. I mean, I don't know if it really helps either, but, you know, more track time never hurts. Getting used to, getting some more time running in traffic, in the turbulence and all that. And
there's been a crash in turn 4. I'm going to have to interrupt you for 1 second.
Oh, my, and it looks like it is the number 2 of A.J. Foyt, who had just qualified earlier today, and it looks like he has done some heavy damage to the number 2 Lilly Vision Racing Dallara. The Delphi safety crew already on the scene. We'll wait to see if A.J. is okay.
They have had a really difficult month.
But you said it earlier. He had so many close calls with the wall that as you keep pushing and pushing, sooner or later that wall comes up and bites you.
You just can't keep doing that. It didn't look like any of them were driver errors. It just like the wind would catch the car up, or the balance wasn't right. But he had 2 big saves since he's been here. One spin didn't hit anything. But I hate seeing that to happen this late in the game, because that is the car he just qualified with, and that is the car he's going to have to get him into race with. And the only time he'll be able to run that car will be in Carburation Day, and all Carburation Day really is just to make sure you don't have any leaks in your engine. You can't do any testing on Carburation Day.
All right, as you can see, it looks like everything is okay. We'll wait to see if AJ's coming out. Now let's take a look. Here is
wow. So that's not his fault at all.
Yeah, that is not AJ's fault at all. Take a look. We've never seen the flames shooting out the back.
Broken engine.
Almost makes you wonder if an oil line or something broke, Eddie, because you generally don't get that much type of flame coming off if with an engine being blown.
See the parts flying at that point right there?
That's 2 things. It could either be 2 things. Either, like you said, an oil line came off, because he's on fire before he even gets into there, or an engine's broken.
Well, there's one of them.
That's the fuel. That's the fuel cover.
The Buckeye, yeah. So I mean, makes you wonder if it's fuel related, oil related.
Well, AJ is out of the car. The helmet is coming off, and that is certainly not his fault. A tough break, though, for this team, as they are now qualified after a great run earlier today. Stay with us. We'll update it when we come back. You're watching ESPN on ABC. The 92nd Indianapolis 500 Bump Day telecast presented by GoDaddy.com, where you can make the web your domain with a .com name for as low as $1.99. And Unum, better benefits at work. And Dish Network. Never miss your favorite shows with a Dish DVR. And Firestone, the first name in Indy racing. We are under caution here as you're looking at the Marmon Wasp back in the Hall of Fame Museum. As you can see the damage. Take another look at this, and we have been studying this during the commercial break, and we think this is really a fuel issue now,
well,
right?
We saw that cover come off that seemed to be the fuel cover, and we're just wondering if some of the fuel started to spray out, as you can see there, which actually would make the flames and then also get onto the right rear tire, which would then send the back of the car around.
There is nothing you can do when you're driving when something like that happens. But he's had continuous mechanical problems. He had the gearbox problem in qualifying. The Buckeye here on the fuel pops up.
You'll see the piece right there. That's what we're talking about. And Jack Arute, you've got more?
Well, Matt Curry just finally had an opportunity to see the same footage that you were showing the rest of America. And, Matt, it seems to have confirmed what the booth thought and what you were afraid of.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing. Just getting in the show this morning, everybody's worked really hard. Anthony's worked really hard.
When you take a look at that, though, does it look like the Buckeye and the fuel may have gotten on that rear tire?
It very well could have. We're going to go back and look at all of our data and try to see if we see anything out of line. But apparently from the video, that's kind of what it looks like from my standpoint.
Guys, we're going to let him go because they've got a lot of work to do. And keep in mind, as Eddie and Scott said, they're not going to get a lot of any more chance to be able to go out there outside of Carburation Day come Friday.
And they've got a lot of work to do. We're going to take one more break. As you can see the damage heading back. You're watching ESPN on ABC. Back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and what is left of the number 2, A.J. Foyt, Vision Entry racing entry. And Brienne, you've caught up with AJ?
AJ, we were able to see the footage. What did it feel like from your perspective?
I just coming out of the pits and went down the corner and something broke loose and just saw fire out my left side mirror and sliding backwards to the wall, and obviously it was a hard hit, and I don't know, something definitely happened. We just had to go back and see what happened. I don't know.
Physically you're okay. How is your confidence now?
My confidence fine. I mean, as long as I know I didn't do anything wrong and nothing's wrong with me. So we just got to go back and investigate what happened and get our car ready for Carb Day.
The best news, guys, is he is okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, the car is not. And take another look at this. We've got about a minute left. And
I mean, if you follow his month, he's had a series of things that have gone wrong. When you go to qualify, it doesn't go in gear, and then you have something with the Buckeye that's going wrong here. The mechanics are either struggling with something or they've changed a crew or something because he's not getting the sort of care that he needs.
So let's talk about what this means now for the remainder of the day, because in 3 hours from now, qualifying's over.
Well, he's at a 2:19.184. If a couple people miraculously find some speed, then he's going to have to find a backup car to put himself back in the field, because this car will not be usable until Carb Day at the earliest.
And Carb Day, as Eddie mentioned, is simply a shakedown because you don't want to put too many miles on your race engine. So you can only basically take a little practice, figure out what you've got for the race. So we'll keep you posted, and of course Bump Day will continue at 4 p.m. Eastern over on ESPN2. Tonight on ABC, the season finales of Extreme Makeover Home Edition and Desperate Housewives. Coming up next on ABC, it's NBA Countdown. We thank you for watching ESPN on ABC. For Scott Goodyear, Eddie Jeeber, Jack Arute, Vince Welch, Brienne Pettigo, I'm Marty Reed. Thanks so much for joining us here at Indianapolis on Bump Day. We'll see you in 1 hour over on ESPN2. Till we meet again. So long, everybody. For those cars trying to make the Indianapolis 500, there are now 2 hours remaining on the final day. That's right, it is Bump Day here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. As you take a look at the scoring pylon, we started a week ago with pole day, putting 11 cars into the field. We put 22 more in, and now we've had the bumping process. 2 cars have bumped their way in. Who else will make it or go home?
qualifying for a place. At least I know with who I race. How fast can you run? How fast can you run?
For 92 years and counting, drivers have come here to mix high-velocity danger with milk-drenched victory. 12 years ago, open-wheel racing split. This year, Champ Car and IndyCar drivers hit the yard of bricks side by side, unified as one. Last weekend's pole day brought 22 cars to the line, where the pole position swapped 6 times among 4 drivers, ultimately crowning Team Ganassi Scott Dixon on the pole. Day 2's rainout shifted the drama to yesterday, where 22 cars qualified, including Graham Rahal, making his first Indianapolis 500 start. But today is bump day, where time ticks down for teams trying to make the race. Drivers can bump their way into the 500 field, where the fastest 33 cars make the race, leaving some drivers on the outside looking in.
How fast can you run?
And we welcome you to the motor racing capital of the world, as it is Bump Day, presented by GoDaddy.com at the Indianapolis 500. And we're in the final 2 hours for those cars trying to make the field. And, of course, the ultimate prize, your likeness on the Borg Warner Trophy and the $2.5 million first prize that goes to the winner of the race. We have cars on the track right now as we have an open practice session. Since we left you an hour ago on ABC, no one has made a qualifying attempt. Could be the fact that the track temperature is 96 degrees and the wind is still gusting. Some teams may be waiting to see if the elements and the weather will change. Of course, I'm Marty Reed alongside with Eddie Cheever and Scott Goodyear. If you missed our earlier broadcast, you know right near the end, A.J. Foyt IV had a big moment. We'll get to that in a second, but he's had a busy month, to say the least. Let's take you back and track through it, as this was just yesterday when he was trying to qualify.
That is as close as to mix that you can have without actually hitting something. And going up to qualifying when that sort of stuff happens, it's not a good memory to start a qualifying run with.
All right, then it came to just a little bit past 12 noon, and A.J. Foyt IV came in and managed to put his car into the field with 4 laps and an average of 219.184 miles an hour. And, of course, Marty Roth was bumped from the field, and he had this playful reaction. That damn Foyt. And it wasn't too long after that, though, that Marty Roth came back out onto the track about 1:34 in the afternoon. He ran 4 laps at 218.965. That punched Buddy Lazier from the field and put Roger Yasukawa on the bump. But then this is what happened just before we left you at 3 o'clock. A.J. Foyt IV with a fuel situation.
Looks like the fuel buckeye was open and the cover came off and allowed the fuel to come out, and that's why you saw the flames. And along with that, all that fuel got on the right rear tire of the car and sent the car directly into the wall, and it hit the safer barrier. Lucky that he was all right.
And Brienne Pettigo was able to catch up with him just outside the medical center right before we went off air.
AJ, we were able to see the footage. What did it feel like from your perspective?
I just coming out of the pits and went down the corner and something broke loose and just saw fire out my left side mirror and sliding backwards to the wall, and obviously it was a hard hit, and I don't know, something definitely happened. We just have to go back and see what happened. I don't know.
Physically, you're okay. How is your confidence now?
My confidence is fine. I mean, as long as I know I didn't do anything wrong and nothing's wrong with me, so we just got to go back and investigate what happened and get our car ready for carb day.
The best news, guys, is he is okay.
Well, and he singed his hair. He was not wearing a balaclava. You saw that when he took off the helmet after his qualifying run, and that's what he was referring to at the end of the interview there. Let's take a look at the starting grid right now as it stands. Of course, the first 11 went in last weekend with Scott Dixon on pole, his teammate Dan Weldon, and Ryan Briscoe across the front. In the second row, we wanted to talk to Danica Patrick today, but she, along with several of the others, have already headed for for New York to the annual pictures. He's doing some pre-publicity up there for the IndyCar Series. So Danica not even on the grounds today. Marco Andretti, Vitor Meira, Hideki Muto, the best qualified rookie. He's on the outside of row number 3. Then in row 4, you've got Ed Carpenter, Thomas Scheckter. That was the end of day 1 qualifying. And then Townsend Bell yesterday, 222.539 for the outside of row 4. Then it was Graham Rahal, Darren Manning, and Bruno Junqueira in row number 5. In row 6, Graham Rahal's teammate Justin Wilson, the 04 winner Buddy Rice, and Davey Hamilton. In row number 7, Alex Lloyd, Ryan Hunter-Reay, and 45-year-old John Andretti make up that row. Then we move to row number 8, where you have Sarah Fisher, Will Power, and Jeff Simmons. And in row number 9, it was Oriol Servia, E.J. Viso, and Milka Duno in her second Indianapolis 500. Mario Moraes, Enrique Bernoldi, Jamie Kamara, the 3 rookies in row number 10. And as it stands right now, there's Roger Yasukawa, who's on the bump, A.J. Foyt the 4th, and Marty Robb. Now, how about those drivers that have not qualified for the field? Well, it includes Max Pappas, Mario Dominguez, and Buddy Lazier. Phil Giebler has been released from Methodist Hospital, but he will not attempt to qualify today. So it looks like as we zero in down trackside, there is Roger Yasukawa in the cockpit of the car. Don't know if he's actually going to be going out just to practice, I would imagine. See if they can get some speed in case they need it. Dominguez needs some speed as well because he is outside looking in. ESPN's presentation of the Indianapolis 500 Bump Day telecast is presented by GoDaddy.com, where you can make the web your domain with a .com name for as low as $1.99. And by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. And as you can see, the clouds are still here, but no precipitation today, and do not expect any, as it has been a good day for getting out on the track, except for the wind. More on that, but first, in case you're not familiar with the rules, let's take you to qualifying 101.
All right, today's bump day. This is the day where guys get their last shot at a dream to race in the Indy 500.
Every driver has 3 attempts.
It's the average speed of 4 laps.
This is when all the drama happens.
Any car that's faster than the slowest car on the field can bump that car from the field. It's a very tough day, I think, for everybody because it's the day that you make it or you're out.
All right, so let's recap that for you. Of course, you get 2 practice laps to warm up the car. Then it's your 4 qualifying laps. The average of that 4 laps determines your speed. The slowest speed is bumped by the faster speed. And you have 3 attempts per car here on Bump Day. So let's bring in Eddie Cheever and Scott Goodyear. We talked about it when we first came on the air at 1 o'clock on ABC. 2 things going on here today. Obviously, Bump Day. And want to zero in now on a couple of the guys that look like they could be taking some chances at this. Max Pappas, Mario Dominguez. Still looking for speed.
They really are. And Mario Dominguez is a rookie, so it's sort of like a first-time effect for him. He's just trying to get up to speed, to understand the nuances of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Max Pappas has been here before. He has the understanding of what's needed, but with a brand-new team and putting everything together, very difficult for them, especially after he crashed the car yesterday. But the time is coming down to a point now where you need to get out there and find some speed. But the clock is ticking, guys, and it's going to be difficult for both of them.
And that's usually when bad things can happen when you ask too much of a car in these late moments.
When you come here at the beginning of the month, you look at the schedule and you say, I have so much time to get my car ready. This is not a big deal. If I don't do it on Monday, I'll do it on Tuesday. But now, as Scott said, the time is shortening. And if you don't do a certain speed, and right now it looks like it's going to have to be above a 218. I was just looking at the screen. You won't be in. So you will take a risk and try to run a car that can only do 216 and do something different with it. It's a 50-50 chance. You might make it around, and if you don't make it around the corner, you might correct and come back and do something, but the clock is ticking. I've been in that position before, and it is no fun. I got in with 4 minutes to go after 6 attempts.
We're talking about 1993. I mean, you were in 3 different cars that month.
I just remember getting at the end in the last hour, John Menard came in and he said, you want to try our car? And I looked up, and I had no idea who he was. I knew who Gary Bettenhausen was, and I jumped in that car and I bumped out Bobby Rahal at the last minutes. And I remember going out on the track saying, I'm asking this car to do something I have not done all month. I'm completely spooked. The car I was running was impossible to drive. And I remember going in, I was just fatigued so much, I just put my foot down. I thought, you know what? If it crashes, it crashes. Let's just get this over with. And it made it. And I got in, and the rest is history.
And you slept well that night.
I did.
Great story. Let's talk about what's at stake, because if you are the last qualifier today to make it into the field, there's a $50,000 bonus. The 33rd place finisher is guaranteed $270,000, and the race winner $2.5 million. To give you an idea, this past year's Daytona 500 winner picked up $1.5 million. Let's get the latest from pit lane. First up is Jack Arute.
Marty, as Eddie Cheever and Scott Goodyear talked, we're down to the final couple of hours, and the key is 218.010 miles per hour. Not for 2.5 mile circuit, but for 4 put together that would average that speed. Now, what about the 3 drivers and teams that are still trying to find that? They have come close, but they've only come close on 1 lap. So far, they have not been able to stitch together 4 laps or 10 miles at 218.010. That's what it'll take to get into the Indy 500. And as Eddie Cheever alluded to, sometimes, especially when there's about 90 minutes to go, you take chances that otherwise, Brianne Pedigo, you would not.
Jack, Mario Dominguez and Pacific Coast Motorsports know that they have 3 chances to find that speed and qualify for the Indianapolis 500, but they have had enough drama this weekend already. They only want to do this once, so they have begun the qualifying for the process, but they're trying to drag it out as long as physically possible to hope that by the time they get through tech, the wind cooperates with them.
Well, the driver that's on the bubble right now is Roger Yasukawa, 218.0. What's your mindset as you stand here today at this point?
Well, it's certainly nerve-wracking, you know. I mean, I would like to be in the show, so yeah, I think the car is pretty good. We're able to fine-tune the car overnight, and we went back to the pad, and you know, we made some changes. We're able to run 219, low 219s. We need to put it together for 4 laps, so we're going to think about that for a little while. Get ready for 5 o'clock, happy hour. I think after 5, the wind should calm down. So, you know, right now we're just kind of focusing on making sure this curb record, Chase Greg, and Real Power car go fast.
Would the team consider withdrawing the car before it gets bumped?
You know, that's a hard call. I mean, I think that gets down to the last 10-minute decision. And, you know, I mean, quite frankly, I feel pretty confident, you know, being able to go out there and run a faster time than I did yesterday. But, you know, the flip note is, you know, if I go out early and if something happens, that's pretty much it for us. So I think, you know, right now we want to stay safe. You know, I think all other guys know what sort of numbers that they need to run right now as we speak. You know, I don't think it's no longer my 218 time. It's more like running 219 to be in the show. So, you know, I think we're in a good position. You know, we just have to put the 4 laps together, and we'll see if we need to go out later on.
Roger Yasukawa, as we said, he sits at 218.0. He believes he can get to 219. And as the car is rolling up toward the tech pad, it looks as though we're going to have a qualifier, and maybe Roger Yasukawa would be bumped from the field at Indianapolis.
Yeah, but as you take a look at that stat on your screen, 66 laps run today. The fastest was 218.3. That's barely above what he needs to get Yasukawa off the bubble. Stay with us. We'll have a lot more as we've got a qualifying run upcoming.
I see the Indy 500 from Grandstand A, penthouse box number 28, row D, seat 3. These seats are the ideal seats. I think I have a good view of the track. It is quite the hike up here. I believe it's 94 steps from the bottom to the top. Probably one of my best on-track memories is when AJ won the 4th 500, and everybody really went kind of crazy.
Well, I got to tell you, Judy, as we look at where your seats are located, after all those years, you ought to have an elevator, and they should install one for her. All right, the yellow is out, which means they will inspect the track and get ready for a qualification run here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Don't forget to join us here on ESPN2 Friday. We'll have a full day of action from the Speedway. It's the final day of practice for the 92nd Indianapolis 500. Plus, the Indy Lights Firestone Freedom 100 race. And see which crew is the fastest in the annual pit stop competition. For Friday, beginning live for the first time at 11 a.m. Eastern here on ESPN2. So you can see that Mario Dominguez is on the tech pad getting the final inspection before he makes his run. It has been an eventful month for Mario. He has had contact with the wall a couple of times, one a little harder than the other. Let's take you back and show you what happened to Mario earlier in the month, back in May 9th, as he stubbed his nose.
I didn't actually see the beginning of that one.
But yeah, our cameras just caught the tail end. This one was a bigger hit.
And here, he actually wasn't really up to speed. If you look at the lap he had done previously, he's lucky he wasn't going faster, because normally when you spin that early in a corner, it's not pretty. So he hasn't had a fun-filled event so far. But Scott, I went out on a limb before trying to say whether Roth would make it or not, and he totally proved me wrong, much to his credit. Why don't you take a stance on this one?
Because you were just telling me earlier that you didn't want to make yourself look foolish twice.
No, me. I already have done the foolish bit. Now it's your turn. Let's see. You think he's going to make it or he isn't?
I think it's going to be close. I don't think he's going to get it done.
Okay. Well, so you say no.
He said no. I think he's not going to get it done.
All right, Jackaroo.
Guys, when the latest issue of Racer magazine came out, there was a quarter-page ad in it, put up there by Pacific Coast Motorsports. They were out of business. They were offering to do service for anybody, road racing, etc. Then this deal came together. This deal was so late, and they did it on such a shoestring that members of PCM Motorsports actually had to max out their credit cards to get here. There are a bunch of California guys that are living the dream, as they say. In fact, the first day that they were here, they brought their skateboards. They skateboarded through Gasoline Alley. They were laughing. They were having a good time. The memo came out that skateboarding was no longer allowed. The skateboards have been on top of the garage. And with Mario Dominguez's near misses and misses, they've been hard at work. They want to get this car in the field right now. During the last practice session, they simulated a qualifying run. They said if the wind is with us, we'll be able to do it.
And remember, the last car to qualify gets that $50,000 bonus. Plus, just for being in the field, you're guaranteed $270,000. So potentially a big payday right here, riding on 4 laps. And take a look. Here's the wind, still gusting up to 25 miles an hour, Eddie.
And it's pushing you into turn 1. So it's probably the most difficult wind conditions you can have here.
And the wind has alternated. When we were having some practices 2 hours ago, it seemed like it went back to the situation we had yesterday where it was pushing you over towards 2. And if you look at the pylon sock, it looks like it's going to push you into turn 1. If you look at the flags on top of the grandstands, they're actually headed towards turn 2 a little bit. So the wind does change directions here, Eddie, as you know, quite often.
When I drove here, the first thing I would do in the morning is I would open the hotel window and I would pick a tree and I'd try to figure out which way the wind was blowing, because it can really affect the car here. And it's changed over the years because the wind obviously doesn't go through the grandstands. There's a few alleys down there in turn 1 where it'll funnel into, and you can almost feel it when you're going around that corner. So it really does make this a different race circuit. It's one thing when it's calm and the weather is perfect, but it's a totally different circuit depending on how the wind is running. And we've had 2 very difficult days on wind conditions.
Well, you heard the engine start for Mario Dominguez. Handshake from the crew. Has been given the instructions by Brian Barnhart, president of competition for the IndyCar Series. Remember, the number has to be better than 218.010 to bump Roger Yasukawa from the field.
And his best run today has been just over 218. It's been 218.3 and change. His last lap out there at speed was 217. So remember, it's not one individual lap. It's a combination of all 4. I think that is difficult in this conditions, especially when you haven't seen that speed out of the car on track. Remember, Eddie, we talked about before, when you're out there running with other cars, you do get the benefit of a tow, even though you may not be directly behind the car in front. When there's so many cars out there running in practice, we all feel that we do just get a bit more of a benefit of the tow in a situation where it will help increase your speed. Out there by yourself in qualifying like he's going to have right now, it's him by himself.
Him by himself. He's got an empty track. He just simulated a qualifying run, so he should have a pretty clear idea of what the car can do. In today's conditions, I doubt he's going to be flat. That means with his foot flat on the throttle all the way around. So he's going to have to make some adjustments. You have to change your line depending on the wind. You've got to look at those windsocks turning into turn 3 and turning into turn 1. So he's got to have a very busy few minutes here.
Jack, what was the last thing the crew told him before they sent him out?
Guys, it was pretty simple. Your turn.
That's just what a driver wants to hear.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go out and lay them down for you. There you can see the sock down in turn number 3. You know, we should point out Mario has a lot of open wheel experience. He ran Champ Car from 02 through 08, winning twice at Surfers Paradise and Miami, but not a super great deal amount of oval experience. And there you see the lift in the warm-up lap through the turn.
And there's nothing wrong with that because you want to make sure the tires are up to temperature and up to pressure. So your goal now is to go down the back stretch and not lift in 3. If you do lift, it wants to be very small, but you want to be flat going into 4 to carry the speed down the straight to take the green flag, and then flat into 1 from that point forward, and that's what he's after.
He stayed 100% throttle into 3
and 4.
All right, so here
it goes. Saddle up.
About 2 minutes and 40 seconds from now, we'll know whether Mario Dominguez is in or out. Watch the lap tracker. If it goes above that white line in the green, that is good news for him. If it goes red, that is good news for Roger Yasukawa. Into the green, guys.
A nice drive off of turn 2. Carries that speed down towards turn 3. Has to be flat all the way through that north end of the racetrack also. Now, we know that he doesn't have a whole lot of oval experience, but he did qualify 10th at Long Beach for the final Champ Car race there and finished 3rd. So a great run for that team, but still needing more success.
Boy, I'll tell you what, he went into the red coming between turn 3 and through turn 4. Here he comes back to the start-finish line over the yard of bricks. 2:17.829. That will not get it done.
No, it's starting. It's very close, though. It's not. It's starting to track back up again. You can see the tracker is back into the green again. He seems to be picking up coming out of 2 and then losing it when he comes out of 3. He's back up again. Now you see when he gets halfway, almost close to turn 3, it starts going back down again. But it looks like he's been on the throttle, full throttle the whole way around.
The north chute again dipping down into the red. Now the wind will be pushing him from behind, coming down the front straightaway.
That's a big descent. No, and then he picks it back up again.
Crosses the yard of bricks. Lap number 2, 2:17.7. You can see Roger Yasukawa watching intently on the monitor in his pit area. And here we go again with the wind advantage. He manages to get back into the green, but it's not staying there.
The wind is going across the track mostly now, so he's getting that push out towards the wall in turn 2. And now when he turns through turn 3, going into 4, this is when he gets the headwind, and this is when the car will start to slow down a bit for him.
And there goes lap tracker heading south. He's kept his foot in it. You saw the throttle response as it's stayed green, which means he's got the hammer mashed. Here's lap number 3, 2:17.8.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. So, Scott, your prediction, I think, is going to be right. And, I can't tell you what's going on here in the booth, but here he goes back up into the green. But, again, Scott, as you pointed out, he's going to be turning into the wind.
But it hasn't tracked up enough. Yep.
And that's great for sailors turning into the wind, but not for race cars.
So they probably made a decision to put a lot of downforce in the car to make sure it would be stable. And maybe they've overcorrected.
In which they can do that because they have 3 tries here today. If this doesn't work, then take the next step and try it again.
It was a good conservative run, just not quick enough.
So he'll come across to take the checkered flag. The 4th lap again, 2:17. So not enough. 2:17.775 the average. And Roger Yasukawa has survived 1 attempt. So Mario Dominguez and the team will have to go back and try and figure it out. They have 2 more opportunities to get into the field, and there is the crew with a lot more work to do as they'll try and figure it out before the clock runs out in about an hour and 32 minutes. The greatest spectacle in racing, it is the Indy 500, and it will be on ABC. The 92nd Indianapolis 500 telecast presented by GoDaddy.com, and our coverage begins 11 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2 and then continues at noon Eastern next Sunday on ABC. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and the team has pushed Mario Dominguez back for refueling, and he hasn't even gotten out of the car. So, Jack, does that mean they're just going to take some wing out maybe and stick it back out there?
You hit the nail on the head, but sometimes what you have to do is you have to work on what's between the driver's ears just as much as what he's sitting on. That's the case with Mario Dominguez. He fell short in that 4-lap qualifying attempt, but his crew at the end repeatedly kept encouraging him and telling him, we're close, Mario. That was a great run, Mario. They said, let's go fuel it. You saw it just before. They asked him if he wanted to get out of the car. He shook his head no. Let's go at it one more time. So I think before long, it'll be Mario's turn yet again. Remember, that's the beauty of having 3 attempts each and every day of qualifying.
Well, the track has just gone back to green for practice, and of course the man who is on the bubble is right there, talking to Greg Beck. It's Roger Yasukawa on the right. Roger at 2:18.010, and of course they're strategizing. And you heard Vince talking earlier about Greg may withdraw the car before it got bumped, and I'm not sure I'd do that. I think I'd make somebody punch me out. What do you guys think?
I think I'd almost agree, unless you are very confident that you're going to be able to go out there and run 2:19, which it's probably going to take to make this happen if some people start to find some speed. But the thing you have to remember is that if you do take your car out of line and then you turn around and go out there and run and either don't go fast enough or get the car maybe a little bit quicker, you still have to go to tech. And it really doesn't allow you to come back on there and have another shot at it, I guess, unless you're about ready to take it out of the holding pin.
Vince, you've got more?
Well, as you see Greg Beck and Roger Yasukawa discussing the situation, Greg Beck explained to me that they were confident that they could do 2:19. He ran back-to-back laps of 2:19 plus, but then the 3rd lap dropped off. He said they got a big gust of wind, they had a little bit of push, and at that point they didn't push it. So they're confident that they can run the 2:19, but at the same time they're also leery of whether they can run 2:19 4 laps in a row. He said he's going to just pay attention to what's happening, but he said, I wouldn't say I would not withdraw my car. That's a possibility, but I want to keep a closer eye on what happens between now and, say, 5:15 before I would make a decision of that nature. Jack?
Vince, maybe one of the issues is, too, what might be happening down in what Scott Goodyear, Canadian as he is, calls the queue. When you get down to the last 5 or 6 minutes, the teams like Mario Dominguez, like Roger Yasukawa, like Max Pappas, they'll begin to congregate down through here. And it's almost like running a fullback ahead in a football play. If you can clog up the queue over the tech shed, you could literally take someone like Greg Beck and keep him from getting that 2:19. So here's where you've also got to begin to do some tactics in terms of when to get in line as well. No matter how many attempts you've got, when you get down to those last 5 or 6 minutes, it's going to get really crazy here.
And we're looking at about an hour and 27 minutes remaining before the gun will fire at 6 o'clock. We're back under practice conditions, and look who is out. The 10 car, the primary car, the number 2 qualified car of Dan Weldon. He has run over 40 laps today. That's his fastest lap. I am amazed at how many laps Target Chip Ganassi Racing is running with these primary cars.
The more you run, the more you learn. They're obviously incredibly confident right now. Both cars have been running fast in all conditions. He's just getting ready. He's getting ready for the race. And if you're going to win on Sunday, you're going to have to beat this guy.
Well, one of the things that we have been able to do through the magic of technology, we call it Virtual Indy, and we took a look at how close the battle between the 2 teammates was last week for the pole. Let's take you through it.
Remember last year between Helio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan, how close it was. It came down to the last lap of their 4-lap qualifying run. Well, this situation here is really reflective of last year. You can see the car on your left, Scott Dixon, just starting to go ahead just a little bit over Dan Weldon, the number 10 car. And this is the 4th and final lap of this year's qualifying run for both of these drivers. You can see how close it was starting the very last lap. They started their 4th lap. Very similar coming out of turn 2 when you got down the back stretch. Just a little bit of a stretch of a lead for Dixon. Coming down the front stretch here, you can see the very minimal difference it was going across the bricks. and that was just enough to get Scott Dixon on the pole. Now, as we look from a view up on top, Eddie, you can see coming out of 2, going down that backstretch, maybe a little less aero on Scott Dixon's car, just to let him surge ahead going down into turn 3.
What I really like about this imagery, that it shows you the different line that each driver has. Weldon seems to be doing a little bit extra room, and when we sat down and calculated it, he actually did how many feet more in his
It was 16 feet on the very last lap and a total of 52 feet over the total of the 4 laps. And as you can see here, as we're going to take one last look on it, the ribbons on the racetrack are denoting the cars and their line that they're taking. The one on the left, the red line, is Dan Weldon's car, and the car on the right, Scott Dixon. The white line, and you can just see a bit of a different line, especially coming up here through turn 4. A little higher line for Dan Weldon and taking the run down to the stripe.
But look how they've memorized their lines. They obviously leave their signature on the track. I think it looks to me like Dixon tries to do a little bit less, and Weldon seems to be a little bit busier.
So that is our virtual Indy, and gives you an idea just how close it really was. Meanwhile, that is Max Papis in the cockpit, still trying to find speed. He is outside looking in. Will he make it? Stay with us and find out.
My favorite tradition would be drinking the milk at the end. That's my favorite.
Now, I've only been able to do that once. That's probably the hardest tradition, to get, though.
Walking out onto the grid and for the first time seeing the grandstands absolutely packed, it really is electrifying. It's quite amazing.
You have the whole month of practice, and you have, all of those qualifying days, and, I'm just glad that they hung on to it, because it just makes the race that much more important and exciting.
Qualifying, if you're really a legitimate contender for the pole, that's where, there was so much tension that you could cut it with a knife.
Just some of the favorite traditions of the racers here. Of course, this place is huge. To give you an idea, just on the infield, inside the 2.5-mile oval, we could fit all of those complexes: the Vatican, Churchill Downs, Wimbledon, the Roman Coliseum, Yankee Stadium, and the Rose Bowl. 253 total acres. And every one of those spots will be full with a car. And take a look at how big it is as Dan Weldon continues to motor around. He's now up to 49 laps. That straightaway and the back straightaway, 5/8 of a mile each. Just gives you an idea. And even though we have the onboard cameras and we can tell you how fast they're going, because of the size of the place, sometimes on television, it doesn't look like he's doing like 226 miles an hour right there.
Until something goes wrong, then it looks like an accident, like an airplane accident.
Yeah, that's for sure. And we've seen way too many of those this month. Jack, you've got more?
Well, we watched Dan Weldon already put up for the day as his teammate and pole sitter Scott Dixon. Barry Wanzer's the guy that calls the shots for Weldon. Barry, is there something specific that you're working on running as late as you are compared to your teammate today?
We may end up racing in conditions like this. Certainly not favorable wind conditions, but we are working on some stability issues, and we hopefully will have a better race car for race day.
So what is the key to try and find what small fixes may be available to you during the course of the race or in advance of the race if race day dawns and it's gusty like this?
Basically in advance of the race, knowing how much downforce you want to start the race with.
All right, guys, so you know what? As we said, some teams are trying to just get into the show. Other teams are trying to make sure that they've got what they need to win the show.
What was really interesting about that, he wasn't being rude because he wouldn't look at Jack when he was talking to him. He is so fixed on the data and watching the car go around that he was interrupting his train of thought. It was almost as if he was in the car with him. Up there, he might have steering, he might have any number of data points that he's looking at, and he, like the driver, is getting all that information into his head, so he's ready for Sunday.
Jack?
Eddie, I can tell you, as you know, onboard computer telemetry, it measures so many things. Barry can tell exactly just where the bars are on the car, whether they're stiffened or if they've been loosened. He can also take a look, as he was watching, what gear were they in, looking at the tire pressures, looking at the steering angle. You're right. He wasn't being rude to me. what he was doing is he was trying to gather all this and be able to decide what the next thing they may wish to try to deal with the wind.
We saw a little breathing of the throttle there by Dan heading into turn number 1. And he's still, I mean, he has turned a lot of laps today. Best was 2:20. The last one was at 2:17. The lap prior to that was 2:18. And he finally brings it in. Of course, he is the 2005 winner of the Indianapolis 500. Not for Target Chip Ganassi Racing, though, because at that time he was driving for Andretti Green. And there he was in the 26 car, taking the sip of milk. That's not a sip, that's a gulp.
Think he was thirsty?
Just a little.
He is a very good Indianapolis 500 champion. He's very outspoken. He says what he thinks. He drives aggressively, and he's somebody that if you're going to win on Sunday, you're definitely going to have to beat him in the process.
And there you see his stats here at Indianapolis, and as we take a look trackside, there he is back into pit lane. We can tell you Max Papis is back out on track, one of our unqualified cars. And they made 2 quick little adjustmits, and there he goes, right
Looks
back
like
out.
just a small amount of front wing possibly coming out of the front of the car to maybe change how the car drives itself going into the turn.
Well, while we watch Max Papis, Dan Wheldon going back out. You know, Wheldon's just run over a quarter of the race distance today alone in practice laps. He's up over 53, 54 laps right now. And here we get a simulated run we're hearing on the 44 for Max Papis. Vince, is that what's going on?
It is indeed. They just put stickers on and leaned that rear wing back a bit as Papis went out for this run. They are fighting the north end of the track. That's turns 3 and 4. And when Papis gets into turn 3, they feel like the car is fighting itself, and they just can't get it comfortable in that area. That's what they've been working on literally the entire time they've been out. Not just today, but every day. The car has handled the same way in that area of the track, and that's what they've been struggling with. So as you see the telemetry on Papis, they put the stickers on. They say if they can get him close, they believe they can take a legitimate shot to get into this field, but they're working through that issue right now. Of course, guys, leaning the wing back, that's what you drivers, that's why you make the big money, right?
Yeah. His last lap, guys, 2:14.
Well, actually, it's showing 100% throttle, so that means he's keeping his foot on the gas, obviously. But 10,200, 10,300 we saw just for a moment, so it's right up at the edge of the RPMs for the Honda engine. So I think from those 2 aspects, everything's going well. But when you just can't find the speed of the car like it is, it looks like right now, Eddie, it just might have too much downforce overall in the car, and it's just not letting it get enough speed going down the straightaway.
That sounds like the most obvious thing, and I'm sure they have their finger in that pie trying to figure out how much downforce they can run, but there's so many different things. There could be a mechanical misbalance, it could be just about anything, but he's going to have to really pick it up to make it.
So far, as you can see, well below what it will take to make it into the field. And if you remember, Mad Max made his debut on the American stage back in the 90s, back at the 24 Hours down at Daytona in the Ferrari. He was running qualifying laps in the last hour, just trying to catch the race leader. It was spectacular. That's how he got the nickname, Mad Max. Mario Dominguez, they're still getting ready for their second qualifying attempt. Stay with us. It's upcoming. Call it Thunder Valley. It's one of the finest tracks on tour. The NHRA Powerade Drag Racing Series rumbles into Bristol, Tennessee this weekend. Stay tuned for the finals. It's coming up next right here on ESPN2 at 6:30 Eastern. Also on ESPN2 HD. We're still under a practice situation here as we're waiting for Mario Dominguez to possibly take his second attempt. Let's go through the grid again instead of just naming everybody. I guess the big question mark on row number 1 would possibly be Ryan Briscoe. What will be his status as far as getting that car and his mental side back together after having that incident? Let's check in on row number 2. Who jumps out at you there?
I like what all 3 of them obviously do, but I think Briscoe will be a surprise come the race. He's racing in a brilliant team, a team with the best Indy history, one of the greatest race teams in America, and they do a very good job at taking young drivers, even that have had a difficult beginning, and he had a difficult beginning. Let's not forget he was fired by Ganassi, but he could be ready for a great 500, and guess who's in his helmet?
Row 2, Elio Castroneves on the inside, a two-time winner here. You always have to count him as one of the favorites, but I like Danica Patrick also this month. She's obviously coming off the win in Kansas, has done a great job, and you can't discount Tony Kanaan. Seems to have had a quiet month right now, has had some fluctuation whether he likes his car or not, but always competitive on race day.
In row number 3, all eyes will certainly be on Hideki Muto after he had a crash, the rookie, the best qualified rookie, and also Vitor Meira, the one-car effort, the best qualified one-car effort. Let's go to row number 4, and in there,
Townsend Bell did a great job. He was the fastest qualifier of the second day. He out-qualified Rahal. Why don't you talk about Thomas Scheckter?
And we're down to row number 5. So Graham Rahal, we mentioned, he's done a great job. Only 19 years old. We've said that many times. Darren Manning, I think, responded very well to a lot of pressure on him to get the car up to speed because they were looking for speed. And Bruno Junqueira, who sat on the pole here before, I think will go about his day very quietly on race day. And I think he'll be seen up towards the front throughout the day.
row number 6, a guy to keep your eyes on possibly could be Buddy Rice. He has been in race trim and right today, for example, running the 7th quickest time. So starting in row number 6, but maybe the 04 winner can move forward. Let's go to row 7.
John Andretti can drive anything. Put him in anything, he'll do well. He had a great month. Didn't have very much time. Did a very good job. Alex Lloyd, what can you say about Alex? He's on Ganassi's team, and Ryan Hunter-Reay had a difficult beginning with an accident, but he came through, and he's ready for his first 500. Rookie, yes.
Let's take a look at row number 8.
On the inside of row number 8, Sarah Fisher. What a feel-good story this is. Starting her new team with her family and just trying to get the opportunity to come out here and qualify. She's done that. And then Will Power, very talented young driver. I think we'll see a lot of him this year. And Jeff Simmons getting a chance to come back here and run Indy cars after being released by Rahal Letterman last year.
Row 9, Milka Duno with a very strong run, 220.305, her 4-lap average. She'll have a couple of rookies here at the Speedway alongside. And then we take a look at row number 10. Three rookies.
That'll be a very busy row. They'll be in a washing machine by the time they turn into turn 1. There is so much turbulence and so complicated that I'm sure all the other drivers are telling them, be careful, that's the hardest corner of all.
As long as it's not on the spin cycle in that washing machine. And here is the last row as it stands right now with Roger Yasukawa on the bubble at 218.010. And we found out now that Mario Dominguez went out and did a bit of a simulated run, and has pulled back into pit lane. And his last 2 laps were at 218.3 and 218.7. Jack?
Marty, remember what Eddie Cheever said when you get down to the scant few minutes left in qualifying? Sometimes you have to take some chances. Here's what they've done with Mario Dominguez's car. As you alluded to, they had a lot of downforce during that qualifying run. Now they've begun to take it out. They've taken some of the rear wing out. They've added a little bit of front wing. When I wanted to know just how Mario thought that felt, they told him, if you feel comfortable at this point, we're going to take a little bit more out, and then we're going to put you back in line yet again. So look for Mario Dominguez shortly.
So what they're doing now is they're building his confidence. The team is growing. They understand it. I can assure you his focus is 110% because he knows he's running out of time. He's picking up in speed. He's gaining in confidence. The wind is probably not bothering him as much, so he's pretty much ready to go.
And the one thing, Eddie, that I think that is great for these drivers right now, they've lost the track time because of the rain, but because of the rain, they have lots of tires they didn't use over those days, and every time you go out to qualify, you have to throw a new set of tires on, and all these teams up and down pit road right now have excess tires because you have 35 sets for the month, and that's probably a great thing. You go out there and put a new set of tires on for the simulation, come back, put a new set of tires on for qualifying. That wouldn't be the case if you had been practicing all month and gaining laps and knowledge. So they would have been behind the 8 ball.
And you know that a new set of tires around here, there is nothing more fun.
As our buddy downstairs, Jack Root, likes to call them, a doctor, or Dr. Feelgoods, I think he calls them.
I just loved it. Whenever they gave me new tires, I was a happy camper.
An hour and 9 minutes remaining in the final session of qualifying here on Bump Day. One of the guys who may have finally called today, boy, Will Power has run over half the race distance, 114 laps today for the rookie here at Indianapolis and our winner at Long Beach. That is putting some long miles. Right before the break, we mentioned Will Power. He had a big moment May 16th back in practice as the car got away from him and he spanked the wall. And as Eddie has always said, and many others, there are those that have hit the wall and those who will. Well, he's logged a lot of laps today. Let's find out how he's doing, Brianne.
Marty, Will Power just wrapping up a day of practice. What was the focus for you and your team today?
Yeah, we did a lot of long runs today. We're really happy with the car. I could run very close behind people, so it's very comfortable in these conditions. It's very windy at the moment, so we'll have to see next weekend. I guess on carb days, the closest to the weekend, and see what the weather's like and what's coming up and make a decision on what we run.
You've said this track has been kind of an enigma to you all month. Do you feel like you've got a better handle on it now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you go up and down. I mean, when you're out of balance and, you know, you're not in the right window of setup, it can be really, you know, nerve-wracking. But once you get the car right, it's really nice and you really love the place.
Now you've got, as you mentioned, a few days until you get to be back in the car. Are you looking forward to that time off, or is that a little stressful for you?
I don't know. I think I'm going to be pretty busy next week. We're going to go to New York tomorrow, and then I think I've got a few other commitments during the week. So it's going to be a busy week, and you know, I just can't wait till race day. It's going to be a huge event.
Tell me about the partnership between you and Oriol Servia, your teammate. How important has it been having somebody to feed off of and gather information, share information with this month?
Yeah, it's been, I think initially on the first 3 days was really good, but then we sort of went separate ways, but now we're back to being very similar. It was good today to run around together, follow each other closely with someone, you know, and who's on the same pace. And, you know, he's a great guy, easy to work with, and we're progressing well.
One of your car owners, Jimmy Vasser, certainly knows his way around this track. What information have you been able to get from Jimmy?
I just think the information he gave us initially, you know, I mean, there's only so much he can tell you, and then you've got to decide for yourself because, like I say, you only get one shot around here of making a mistake, and then you're in the wall. So you got to creep up on it and learn yourself.
Now, someone known down here in the garage for fancy fashion is Dan Weldon. He's got some very stylish shoes, but you're not doing too bad yourself in the shoe department.
Yeah, check it out. OMP shoes. They're really comfortable. Color's bright, but, you know, they look cool. They're cool.
Jackaroo?
I don't know, Brianne. Take a look at the shoes that this guy are middle of the front row. I think you got the Aussie beat. What do you think?
I think with the teeth and the boots, we got him covered, right?
Hey, let's talk a little bit about the wind, because unlike a lot of drivers that we've heard from, you have a different take on the wind and the effect that it has.
Yeah, I do. I'm a firm believer around here and places like Phoenix. You often talk about the heat in Phoenix changing the balance of the car, but, you know, really, if your car is good, I'm of the belief that it's good in all conditions, and the main thing that you look for around here is balance, and balance is key. If your balance is slightly off, and then the wind is going to show that, and so you got to perfect that balance, and we haven't quite got it this month. Not right now. I mean, we're okay. We can be good, but we're not as consistent as I would perhaps like.
You are a guy that now and again likes to play head games, likes to show that, you know, hey, I'm not afraid of anybody. I want to show you a little bit of early practice when you were running with some of your competition, and I want to ask you a question. Were you doing a little chest thumping? Were you trying to do a little parry and thrust? Let people know that, look, you're going to have to deal with me on race day?
Wait, I'm not sure what you're talking about. I'm looking right now, but that's Scott.
There you are.
No, that's Scott.
That's Scott. Well, you can't blame me because I don't run the tape machine, but I saw you out there. You like to have a little fun with your competitors, don't you?
You know, the biggest thing is, as a professional, you've got to put your car in positions that it's going to be in the race so that you can get a feel for what it's going to do in the race. And, you know, I try and do that as much as I possibly can. But there's not so much traffic out there now. So, unfortunately, I think, you know, we've kind of got what we've got, and we'll just fine-tune that.
All right. Done for the day?
No, I think we've got a couple more in us. So we've got a few things that we'd just like to try.
You know what, Eddie Cheever, you said it best earlier today. What other sport is there where you can sign up for a heavyweight title bout, let's say against Muhammad Ali, and then go a couple of rounds with Ali, go a couple of rounds with Frazier, go a couple of rounds with George Foreman before the fight is even held? That's what these guys do during these types of days, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's he's getting ready. He's still got a few blows left today, though, so he hasn't quite got what he wants, but he's getting pretty close. That's a very confident-looking race car driver.
Yeah, not only that, but did you mentioned a second ago, and I agree with you 110%, the confidence level now in Will Power and where he was the other day to where he is now. He's a happy race car driver. That's why he says, I can't wait for the race.
Normally, what happens in the month of May, you get older and you get all worried by the time the race comes. After qualifying, he looked exhausted. Look what happened to me. I'm actually 20 years old. I look like I'm 50. But when we just saw Will Powers now, he was totally relaxed. He loved the place. It was as if he was back in love with his girlfriend after having had a really bad fight before qualifying.
Of course, the big question America wants to know is, what shoes are you wearing today, since you were startled by those shoes that Dan had on? Look at those.
I was shocked. I am shocked.
All right, we're going to get out of here just for a moment. A couple of guys are trying to find the speed. Max Pappas is one of them. Look at the clock. We've got about an hour to go. And there's Mario Dominguez. He's already burned one attempt.
Qualifying for a place, at least I know with who I race. How fast can you run?
Well, we've got less than an hour till Bump Day is over here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I'm Marty Reed along with Scott Goodyear, Eddie Cheever, Jack Arute, Vince Welch, and Brianne Pettigo. And we're glad that you're with us, and a couple of guys trying to find speed. We've had two cars bump their way into the field. And let's take a look at the starting grid. If you're just tuning in, we'll run through it quickly for you. As you look at that front row, the margin between the three qualifiers, 0.2 of a second. What's the record? Back in 2000, 17/100ths of a second. That's how close. Here's row number 2. Elio and Danica not around the track today. Those two have already beelined it for some advanced publicity for tomorrow's big shoot in Times Square. In row number 3, of course, you've got Marco and Vitor and Hideki, the top qualified rookie. Then we take a look at row number 4, where Ed Carpenter and Thomas Schechter rounded out our first day qualifiers last week, and then Townsend Bell yesterday just nipped Graham Rahal for the top spot. There's Graham on the inside row 5. Darren Manning, Bruno Junqueira, the 02 pole sitter. And then as we go back through into row 6, you got Justin Wilson, Buddy Rice, the 04 winner here at Indy, and Davey Hamilton. Then in row 7, it'll be Alex Lloyd, Ryan Hunter-Ray, a couple of rookies with the veteran John Andretti. Then in row number 8, it's Sarah Fisher, Will Power. We've already talked to him. He's logging a lot of laps today, 114. Jeff Simmons on the outside of row number 8. Then in row 9, Oriol Servia, EJ Viso, and Milka Duno. And in row number 10, it'll be Mario Marias, Enrique Bernoldi, and Jamie Kamara. That's our rookie row, all three of them rookies here at the Speedway. And then the man on the bubble, Roger Yasukawa, AJ Foyt IV, who's got a damaged race car right now, and Marty Roth. We mentioned Danica, of course, if you are a fan of Sports Illustrated, whether you believe in the hex or not, I guess we'll find out next week. But Danica gracing the cover of SI for the second time in her career, of course, after her run here a couple of years ago, her rookie season. And it was a pretty interesting article, what she was talking about in there.
You know, we talked about the Sports Illustrated article, and we were mentioning the other day that she was in it for the swimsuit issue. And we think that would be a much more popular issue than this one. Do you agree?
I'm not going there.
What's happened to this brave guy that I have to sit beside here for the last couple of days?
No, I don't want to get chastised for saying something I shouldn't say.
Of course, she picked up her first win back at Motegi. A week later, of course, Ashley Force made more history for the ladies in drag racing, winning her first funny car event. That's coming up, in fact, from Bristol right after we're done here. And, you know, we mentioned Elio. He's already up in New York, and, of course, now very well known from Dancing with the Stars. But remember a couple of years ago after he won the 500, and some folks played a little trick on him. Let's take you back, show you what happened.
Castro Neves has won. Just so happened to win it. Castro Neves wins. He's gonna taste it twice. Twice better.
You're Julio Castro.
Castro Neves.
Okay. The speed limit's 30 out on 16th Street. Your speed's at 40, so that's the reason I've stopped you. If you just want to step out of the car, it's only going to take a minute, and I'll get you on your way. If you guys want to just stay in the car, I'll be with you in just a moment.
drive for Marvel Team Penske?
I don't know. So
I'm the pole seater of the Indianapolis. I'm back-to-back the winner. I'm here just to come to the race.
Okay.
I can't believe you're going to do that for me, sir.
You can't speed out here on the roads. I don't even know who you are.
I'm going to meeting with my boss over there, and I was supposed to be in the track scene. Give me a break. Come on.
Well, who's your boss?
Roger Penske.
Okay, I don't know who that is. Kind of keep your hands out of your pocket. I mean, you can stand here, but you need to keep your hands out of your pocket. It's for my safety only, okay? You need to keep your hands out of your pocket also.
I'm the Indy 500 champion, and everybody says, you get tickets. I say, well, I hope not now that I won back-to-back, but I can't believe it.
All right. Well, I'm just doing my job, so you just need to slow down, you know.
If you can give me a break, I appreciate that, sir. I can give you a hat, a helmet, whatever, but don't even...
Are you trying to bribe me? Don't be bribing me now.
No.
Okay?
I'm just trying to be nice.
I've seen you. You're Jill DeFerrin, right? I've seen you before, sir. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Glad to see you.
How are you?
Great. Have you had anything to drink, any alcohol today? All right. It must be your accent or something, because it's kind of slurry a little bit. Who is that?
That's my boss, one of them.
Well, you'll be able to have a meeting now here, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if it matters here, President Penske Racing. I suppose he's probably already tried to tell you who he is and what he's done, huh? That probably doesn't matter to you guys, does it?
Well, I don't know him, so I just...
I have a picture right there, look.
Huh?
My picture's right there.
Oh, okay.
Right now,
that does look like it.
Hey, smile. You're on camera.
Hey. Stay right there. There's the camera, my friend. Huh?
How could I kill this guy?
Yeah, I know.
How fast can you run? How fast can you run? How fast can you run?
Be careful how much you laugh. I was at a charity function just earlier this week, and you weren't there, but I saw something that you had to have.
I know. After seeing that, there's nothing you can do that will embarrass. Maybe there is something you can do.
Your family friend.
This is my best friend. The lights are not quite right, though. We gotta get the lights a little better. That's not bad. And I like him this way because he's not saying anything. He's just standing there. That's the best way you should be.
We were looking for one from Marco also.
The whole family.
The whole family.
Bring Mario up here while you're at it.
Well, Mario,
you think his mom will come too?
But Marco, and because I always wanted to ask you, what were you thinking going up the hill at Watkins Glen?
I was thinking I'm going to move to one side, let them go.
You did move to one side, the wrong side. You knocked him off.
I knew this was going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be that good.
That's hilarious.
All right. Welcome, rookie. We got you too. All right, we've got to step aside. I don't know if Michael will still be here when we get back.
Stand over here. It's okay. Oh, sorry. I didn't see you there.
Bye. On track, off track.
I am Indy.
Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Mario Dominguez still with 50 minutes left, out doing a simulated run. He's gotten as high as 2:19, last lap around 2:18. Jack, what's going on?
Well, he's getting it up to almost 2:19 now, and the crew likes what they see, and they keep telling Mario precisely that. They went out again to simulate this qualifying run. They have built his confidence to the point now where they've been able to free the car up. And so what's going on in the car in between Mario Dominguez's ears are starting to become one with the other. I expect them now. They've called him into the pits. I expect them now to refuel and then put it in line.
Yeah, he did a 2:18, a 2:19, and a 2:18.5 the last 3 laps, and here he comes into pit lane.
And it looks like the wind is starting just to taper off just a little bit because the windsock on the pylon just seems like it's really starting to maybe not be as strong as it did before. So maybe that's a good omen here for the people who will be looking for speed running down here in this last hour.
So anything to help him.
There it is. There's the sock. And you drivers, you always talk about how you look for it when you're coming out of turn 4.
You got to look at it coming out of turn 4. You got to look at it coming out of turn 2. And you actually try to memorize where it was the lap before, because if it starts moving, you have to change your line. But Jack was absolutely right. They're building up his confidence. He's feeling better about it all, about the whole thing. He's probably roaring to want to get on the track instead of being hesitant to get out there.
Another driver who wants to make a qualifying effort is Max Papis. You see his fastest lap today, not even close, at 2:16.3, and we get word that while he was out on his last practice run, as he was trying to go out, and he had a little problem as he was trying to go out.
It just seems like that's struggling to move. It's almost like the clutch, Eddie, with not getting itself out of the pit lane there.
That's the clutch. He's got a problem because there's not much time left.
Vince, what's going on?
Well, Max Papis attempted to leave the pit lane as they were going to go out and make a simulated qualifying run, but his car just crept out of the pit box, and then it came to a stop. So they're concerned now that maybe they've got a drive shaft issue, and they're discussing what the possibilities might be and how to go about investigating. We'll keep you updated.
All right, so the clock continues to tick, and there's 46 minutes, 45 seconds, and counting for Max Papis and their team to get enough speed and also to figure out what the problem is. Stay with us.
I watched the Indy 500 from the top of stand H at the beginning of the front stretch, right at the entrance of the pits. I got these seats in 1966 when Johnny Rutherford won the race in the early 80s. Johnny stopped and picked Tim Richmond up and rode down to the finish line with him. And I thought that was kind of neat.
And that's the view that he has as we talk a little bit about what's going to be transpiring 1 week from today. Of course, it is the greatest spectacle in racing, the Indianapolis 500. And there's Johnny's likeness, as he's got his name on there and face 3 times. And there's the 1980 winning car back in the Hall of Fame Museum right here on the grounds. And there we are. That's our airtimes, the 92nd Indianapolis 500 telecast presented by GoDaddy.com. The coverage begins at 11 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Continues at noon Eastern. That's next Sunday on ABC. Every single one of those cars, a race winner at the Indianapolis 500. Stay with us. We may be having an attempt upcoming here at Indy. With 42 minutes and counting here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on bump day, Roger Yasukawa, who's in the field right now, he's on the bubble at 2:18.010, just went out and laid down back-to-back laps at over 219 miles an hour. And, guys, that sends up a red flag to Dominguez and to Max Papis.
And they were good laps because there's not many cars out there, not that much traffic. So a benefit of a tow, maybe not. But it's going to be up to him now to go out there and run 4 consistent, smooth laps that will really safely put him in the field.
They're working on Max Papis' car. Remember, he had an issue trying to pull out of pit lane. Jack, what's going on with Dominguez?
You got to like what's going on inside the head of Mario Dominguez. Remember early in the day, the team was trying to psychologically pump him up. He's already made 1 attempt, and they were slow. Well, now, all of a sudden, when Mario Dominguez was the one that mentioned to his team, because they were going to put the car in line, he said, you know, Yasukawa just went out there and did some 219s, 0.3 and 0.4. He said, Mario Dominguez said to his crew, I think we need to free it up. We're going to have to go faster. I like that.
All right, thanks, Jack, for the update. You can see them putting the fuel into the car. And there's Buddy Lazier as he is with helmet in hand. Remember, he has been bumped from the field already. And the question is, will they even be going out to make an effort? Jack, what is the story on Lazier? We haven't heard much from them lately.
Because they have been back on the setup pad. The crew has been hard at work for the last 2 hours. They've made major changes. Buddy Lazier has come out to survey the situation. And, in fact, let's see if we can get a quick comment from Buddy. Buddy, I'm assuming when are you going to try? You're going to try and go again, but how many laps have you got and how much time have you got?
We're running out of time. We had very little time to begin with, and we're just trying to put our best foot forward here.
All right. They hope that they've come up with the setup to give them the speed that will put them back in the race, but they're running out of time, as you heard him say.
Oh, he has run 61 laps so far today. Don't forget to join us on ESPN.com for a live chat tonight. Just go to search and type in Indy Chat. We'll have a live chat with the final qualifier tonight at 7:45 p.m. That's Indy Chat on ESPN.com. Your keyword is Indy Chat. All right, the clock continues to run. There's about 40 minutes remaining in bump day, and there's a lot of work going on in pit lane. Don't go away. Back here at Indianapolis, that's Buddy Lazier's car coming back out onto pit lane. While we've got a moment, let's talk a little bit about what's going to be coming up. The NASCAR Nationwide Series will be in Charlotte on Saturday. Don't miss the CarQuest Auto Parts 300. Coverage begins with NASCAR Countdown at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, congratulations to Casey Kane last night. Voted in by the fans, ended up winning the All-Star race. And a tip of the hat to Sam Hornish. Sam was down 2 laps at one point, came back to finish 7th. And there is Buddy Lazier, the 1996 winner. And there is the man sitting on the bubble right now, Roger Yasukawa. But his confidence factor has got to go back up, Eddie, after seeing those back-to-back 19s.
That's a big deal. I mean, he just did it. He knows he can put a new set of tires on and probably go a little bit quicker. So it's going to be a mind game right now. I really think that Buddy's going to do a run here pretty soon. I don't know if he wants to take out that much downforce. It really is a question of taking out everything you can and hoping the car sticks.
About 37 minutes remaining. Let's get more from Brianne Pedigo.
Marty, I just spoke with Greg Beck, owner of Roger Yasukawa's car, and he's very aware that there's only 37 minutes left, but they are pleased with the way this car is set up at the moment. They are going to run down to the queue, as Scott Goodyear would call it, just in case.
Meanwhile, here on the tech shed in the queue, as Scott calls it, Buddy Lazier's number 91 is going through tech. As I said to you when we talked to Buddy, he knows time is running out. No practice whatsoever with the changes that were made on the setup, on the shut-up pad. And Buddy Lazier is going to have to suck it up right now and try and figure out if they've gone the right way to get back into this field, guys.
These are the moments we talk about every year at this time, where drivers ask things of their race cars that sometimes just aren't there, and that's when things can really go south. You can see the clock. I mean, it is counting down 36 minutes, just under that, and one more car coming into the line there. Buddy Lazier, he'll be making his run next. For those of us that love motorsports, those are symphonic sounds as you get ready for Buddy Lazier as he waits for his car to clear the tech pad. You can see he's run 61 laps today. His best was 2:18. What do you think about this strategy about going out now, Scott, without taking it out for a shakedown run after making major changes back in the garage?
Well, they arrived late, and obviously weather didn't help this week. And in this situation here, I'm not sure what kind of changes they made to the race car, but these things are really finicky. You just make a very small change, can really change how the car is going to work around the racetrack. So if they were in the garage making major changes, as was reported, and for him not to get a chance to have an opportunity to feel this car out, he's going to go in there and use all his talent just to be able to get this car around and up to speed if he can make it happen.
And there's a lot of talent there to use.
And there's Roger Yasukawa pushing down if he needs to get ready. Jack, you've got more?
The major problem that the Hemmelgarn-Johnson team was facing with the 91 was that in the middle of the corner it would want to pivot. It would be pushy on the way in, then it would want to pivot. And that's basically when they went to the setup pad, they tried to change some distribution so that they could maybe resolve that. And right now, I think Buddy Lazier realizes that with time running out, there really isn't enough time to be able to go out and shake this thing down, because time will run out before he uses his 3 attempts. And as I predicted about an hour and a half ago, now that we're down to almost just about 32 minutes to go, look at the rush to tech. Everybody that is in and about to be bumped and maybe bumped are starting to congregate down here. So you're going to get one shot, guys, and that's going to be it, I'm afraid.
Well, Mario Dominguez is right behind him on the tech pad, so we've got 2 in a row coming up. And there's Roger Yasukawa just getting ready to defend his position if he needs it. There's Max Pappas, and they've got all kinds of issues. Let's get an update from Vince Welch.
Well, the good news is that Max Pappas's team has gone through the gearbox and found the issue, so they believe that Pappas is going to get back out. He's just communicating with his team now, asking about whether or not he's going to have time for a simulated run, and they're explaining to him that there are other drivers in line for qualification. So Max Pappas, at least at this point, it looks like he's going to get a chance to get his way into the field, and that pleases him from that perspective, because just a few moments ago this team thought they were done.
Well, these, I gotta tell you, folks, I'm being very honest here. These are when moments even I feel nervous when we're here in the booth, because there are question marks with a lot of these race cars, and these are human beings strapping themselves into missiles that are going to go over 226 miles an hour, if they can get that fast, into the corner. And remember what's at stake here: an opportunity to run the 92nd Indianapolis 500. $270,000 in your hip pocket if you're just in last place.
Marty, there are 3 pedals in that car. One of them is the throttle, the other one is the brake, and then there's the clutch. So there are really only 2 pedals. It's every driver's decision how much he's going to commit to qualifying. So you're right, it is difficult, and they want to qualify, and there's over $250,000 at play right here for somebody that's going to make it in. But they have all the tools inside the cockpit to make the decision. The decision is purely the drivers for the next 30 minutes, which I think are the meanest 30 minutes in motor racing in the United States every year.
And we are approaching that mark in about 10 seconds. You saw Brian Barnhart. He put his head in very quickly on the instructions, Jack.
Because he's a veteran and because he's an Indy 500 winner, Brian Barnhart put it very succinctly. You know the process, buddy. 218.010 is what you're shooting for. Go for it and give me 4 good ones.
So now Barnhart checks with the tower to make sure the track is clear. And he's going to send him out. And of course, as he pulls out, who can forget about a dozen years ago when this young man was suffering from a fracture in his back and still somehow managed to win the 1996 Indianapolis 500. I remember, Scott, that every time he climbed in and out of the cockpit, it looked like so much agony just trying to get in and out of the car.
And that was a result of a huge crash at Phoenix International Raceway, going into turn 1 and ending up against the turn 2 wall, which fractured his back. And he really came back a little bit earlier than what doctors wanted to, but he wanted to race the Indianapolis 500 and resulted in the win.
And what you have to add to that is when he had his fractured back, had he have had another accident, and he knew that when he was running, the results could have been really bad.
Crippling.
Right. And yet he went out there, he ran the 500 and didn't just ran it, he won it and didn't put a foot wrong the whole month.
All right, he's on his second lap. Let's see how he does here through turn 1. 100% throttle still there, but the speed is not. 216, 217 through the corners won't get it done. See what happens as he goes down the back straightaway here.
Now look at the RPMs, 9,900 RPMs. He has to be up at 10.2, 10.3 if he's going to have an opportunity to get everything out of that Honda power plant. So he's got to carry some more speed through the turns, which will endure him down the straightaway, carrying more speed and more RPMs.
I don't think he'll get to 10.2.
Well, and remember what Brian Barnhart said last week as the green flag comes out. If he sees that a run has no chance of making it, he has the authority to wave it off himself, let alone if the team wants to abort early. So here goes Buddy Lazier, lap tracker right now, compared to Roger Yasukawa, slightly in the green. And that's Roger Yasukawa, 2 cars behind. Now remember, as he's heading into the wind here, it's going to start dipping.
Well, we've seen this before from other runs. Now what he's going to have to do is make up for that as he's going down the front stretch and then through the south end of the racetrack. And Buddy will know his times because he has a digital dash inside that car with telemetry, and he will go across the bricks and then get the speed of what he achieved each and every lap.
First lap, 217.272. That is not good enough.
It's not looking very positive here. It was the only time we could see the revs was the warm-up lap he did to start with, and I think he was about 100 to 200 revs too long. And what that means that the engine is not in its peak power range, and that will cost you. That'll cost you straight line speed, especially when you have a wind that's changing like this.
And usually what you do in qualifying is run 4th, 5th, and 6th gear very close to each other, so you can have the selection of what gear you want to run in to maximize the speed out of the engine. Now, if he's in 4th gear, for instance, and it's the closest gear that he can run, still not get RPMs, that's not a good sign for it. If he was in 6th, certainly could come down to 11th, and his second lap here at 2:17.204 would be disappointing, obviously, and he knows what's going to happen. Brian will probably give him till lap 3. As you see Ron Hemmelgarn on the right-hand side of your screen, his team owner when Buddy won this race before, and Buddy comes from a long line of racing family. His dad raced here, his brother Jacques has raced here, and really a ski family, and Buddy was a national champion in skiing, but you know, this is a situation
but to make up for those first 2 laps in 2:17, he'd have to do a 2:18 plus right now.
Right.
And that's not in the cards. It's trailing down. It's getting slower and slower every lap. So if it is an issue with the gear ratios, they might just barely have enough time to get in there and make a change.
Jagaroot.
You guys alluded to the fact that Brian Barnhart retained the right to be able to wave off. That's exactly what he did, because Ron Hemmelgarn at first did not want to, but Buddy Lazier had some input as well, so they're going to try again. But right now it's time for Mario Dominguez's turn for attempt number 2.
All right, so Buddy Lazier has earned 1 attempt today. They'll see if they can figure out where to find that extra RPM that we are seeing on the warm-up lap. And meanwhile, Mario Dominguez is getting ready to go. And there he is as he pulls out onto the racetrack. This will be Mario's second attempt if he takes the green flag. Jack?
All right, here's what they've done, guys, and you drivers can relate to this. They've taken rear wing out. They've put just a tiny bit of front wing in. And watch the revs, because they've told Mario for this run, stay in 6th gear the whole time. Let's see if that does the trick.
Well, front wing in, rear wing out.
Hold on.
Hold on. Tighten those seatbelts, because the front is really going to be positive. You just think turn, and it will turn in.
This is his first warm-up lap. Now here comes the telemetry. He'll bring the speed up.
Now look at the revs. See, the revs were higher on this run than earlier on Buddy's.
Up to 10.3. How's it handle through turn 1? Whoa, he had to lift. He didn't feel comfortable there, Scott.
Oh, and it looked like the brake showed up just a little bit, maybe a little bit of left foot braking, but most importantly, now you go down the backstretch. You want to get through 3 without lifting if you can, but if you have to crack the throttle, great. Make some adjustments inside the car to get the car working better. You must be flat in 4. Here we are through 3. He is flat. Stay flat through 4. You need to carry speed out of 4 down the front stretch for your green flag.
And as he comes out of 4, I just looked at the windsock, and the wind is blowing straight down from behind him in towards turn number 1. So here we go. He's on his second attempt. Watch the lap tracker as he goes through 1. Stays on the throttle. He's into the green. Now this was the way he was the first attempt, but he would lose the speed going through 3 and 4. That's Roger Yasukawa, the man on the bubble in the upper right of your screen. And here he goes. This is the same thing that happened last time.
He's got the same trend as before, but I don't think he's dipping down as low as he did before. He might be able to hold it all the way, keep it level till 4, and then start ramping back up again.
Coming down the front straightaway, and the wind is still behind him, and it has died a little bit. It is not as brisk as it was. Here comes lap number 1. Will it be enough? 2:18.910. That is good enough. While this is going on, there is a story involving Roger Yasukawa. Brienne?
That's right, Marty. Greg Beck has officially withdrawn Roger Yasukawa's previous qualifying attempt. That means he has submitted the form to Brian Barnhart's assistant, Tiffany. He has signed the paper. Roger Yasukawa right now is not in the race. He will go back out as soon as Mario Dominguez is done with this run.
So that means all Dominguez has to do is run this final couple laps, and he will be in the field, at least for now. And he's well in the green. And here is lap number 2, 2:18.546.
So that bit of teamwork that they did that last hour was very efficient. It worked on the driver. They have a balance. They figured out what the car needed. They risked a bit by putting more front wing in and taking out some in the back, but he's getting quicker and quicker every lap. But that's no, he isn't. He dropped a bit in a second, but he's well above what he needs to be. He's setting a new mark out there for Bump.
Through the north chute.
A lot of room left between him and the walls, which is all.
Down the front straightaway. Here comes the third lap time, 2:18.5 again, so his 3-lap average is 2:18.662.
And what that wing change did, putting more front wing on the car and taking some rear wing out of the car, it makes the car turn easier through the turn, so the driver does not have to turn the steering wheel as much, and that for he doesn't scrub off as much speed, which is probably one of the reasons why he's now increased his speed overall and his lap times have come down. And that's exactly what they generally do if you're a veteran around here. Remember, he's a rookie, but he's actually being able to handle this.
He's done it.
Well, he's done it at least for now. As he comes down, we'll get the checkered flag, we'll get the 4th lap and the 4-lap average for Mario Dominguez, 2:18.4. So he is 33rd, 2:18.620, and that puts him on the bubble.
He might have to go again.
So we're getting word now that they perhaps did not hand in the paperwork on Yasukawa. Jack, what's going on?
Yeah, guys, it's a little bit of a technicality. All the paperwork, as Brienne reported, was filled out. In fact, they wanted to give it to Tiffany Hammer, but Tiffany said, look, there's a car out there. If you get bumped, there's no need to do the paperwork. And all of a sudden, the crew started to think about it, and they said, you're right, we're next in line. So, and it's a minor technicality, but if something should happen during the course of that run, they wouldn't have been bumped, and they wouldn't need to they would have been bumped as they have been, so there's no need to withdraw. So it became a moot point.
Okay.
Now it's up to Roger just to get back in this field.
Yeah, and now he's going to have to run quicker than 2:18.620, the 4-lap average established by Mario Dominguez. And this will be Yasukawa's 2nd attempt. Let's watch his warm-up lap here. Full throttle through the corner, and they're working on the wing of Buddy Lazier's car, trying to get a little less drag, guys. And let me correct myself, this would be Roger Yasukawa's 1st attempt today. I think I said 2nd attempt, and that's not true. He had his run yesterday that put him in the field initially. Taking a look at the clock, we are down to less than 20 minutes remaining as here we go. The green flag is out for Roger Yasukawa. Vince, you've got more?
Well, as Roger Yasukawa goes out on the track to attempt his qualification attempt, Mario Dominguez sits in his race car here down in the what is termed the bullpen area with all the photographers and the reporters who all gather to get their post-qualifying comments. But Dominguez is staying in the car, strapped in, helmet on, because if he gets bumped from the field, they believe they can push him right to the line and possibly have time for another attempt. Obviously, the clock, as much as the driver on the track, is an opponent for Mario Dominguez.
Well, this first lap, according to Lap Tracker, is going to be awfully close. He comes across the yard of bricks, 2:18.894. That is good enough, but there's no wiggle room.
None at all.
Just going to absolutely have to keep this speed up and find maybe just a little bit more. I did notice on the telemetry when he was warming up, it seemed like the steering amount that he was turning was very good, right in that range of being right where you want it to be. The more you turn the steering wheel, as I mentioned, the more you scrub off speed. So they've done some adjustments to this car to make it a little bit more neutral. And the faster the car goes, usually the more neutral it is in a lot of cases.
Out of turn number 4, that is Max Pappas. He is next in line, getting the briefing from Brian Barnhart. Meanwhile, here comes lap number 2, 2:18.645. That is still good enough, but by only 1/10 of a mile an hour.
But it's still ramping up, though.
It does until he gets through 3 and 4, and then the trend goes down just like everybody else we've seen.
But that he has that little bit in his pocket that he gains between 1 and 3 that he holds on to. If he makes a mistake and breathes just a little bit in one corner or puts too much steering in, he could drop off maybe even half a mile, and that would ruin his average. Well, he's in the red now.
Here comes Lap Tracker. It is showing him in the red coming out of number 4. Coming down for lap number 3, and now he's starting to trend back to the positive side. 2:18.322. His average is 2:18.620. That is exactly the same speed average that Dominguez ran.
It's going to come all down to the last 2 corners.
And Eddie, we were talking before about a driver has the opportunity to use some tools inside the cockpit, the weight jacker and the roll bar adjustments.
Ramping down
Some of
again.
the drivers were doing that yesterday, and that's what you try to work with to try to improve the car throughout the run if you can.
I don't think he's going to make it.
Coming through turn number 4, he is well below the line now, earlier than he has been on any of his other prior laps. Heading for the checkered flag. It is going to be oh so close. No, I don't think he's going to get it. 218.375, 218.559. He misses by less than a tenth of a mile an hour.
That is insanely close.
We'll tell you exactly how much that is as far as time. That's 4/100ths of a second over 4 laps. That's the difference between being in and being out. Stay with us. Problems for Max Papis when we come back. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, there is bad news for all you fans of Max Papis. They will not be able to make an attempt at, I just don't think they got enough time to get it fixed, because when they fired the car again to push him out, it sounded exactly the same as before. Listen. And you guys were still thinking it's clutch.
It sounds like a clutch.
Anytime that I've ever had that situation, it sounds like a clutch. And this is a team that was trying so desperately to get this whole package together. And I was at a dinner just the other night with Max and his team ownership of Jason Priestley and Jim Frudenberg, and they really thought they would have this whole package together. And Max's wife is Emerson's daughter, and the family's flying in here this weekend, and Max's mom's coming in from Italy, and it's just a bad situation for them. And, you know, so much emotion goes into trying to get here to the Indianapolis 500.
And especially with Max. If you spend any time around Max, he wears his emotions on his sleeve. It's a really important circuit for him. He did so well with us with the 2 years he's racing. He just loves this place. He loves racing. He talks about it all year. So to see them go out with something like that is very unfortunate. But you can't come here anymore just throwing a team together at the last minute. It just doesn't work that way.
We are approaching 13 minutes remaining, and Buddy Lazier is back into line. In fact, he has passed the tech line and will be about to take his second attempt. Now, he's got to go 218.620 to make it into the field, and he hasn't been close yet.
Tough one. Tough one. I don't know how much. We have no idea how much wing they're taking out, but at this point, you just roll all of your dice. Buddy will be able to feel the car a lot quicker than the rookies or Yasukawa have done when they go out with changes. But this is a big one. I mean, they've just made the biggest change they can right now. They just got their fingers crossed, and they hope they got it right.
And we'll know when we get the telemetry up and we see the RPMs if he's still down below 10,000.
You're going to have to see the RPMs and the speed through the turns, because speed through the turns is really indicative of how fast the car will go at the end of the straightaway. And for Buddy Lazier, who knows how to get this done, it will be very difficult for him to do anything other than qualify, because he does have a lot of motion around this racetrack.
The wind is still coming due north from turn 4 straight down.
Now watch the
turn
revs.
number 1.
Watch
Here
the
we
revs.
go. This is the second lap of warm-up. Well, he's up to 10,000. 10-1.
10-1.
Jack, what are the changes?
Well, this is when you rely on someone's veteran experience. And I quote, "We move the wing as far back as we dare."
10-3. That was quicker than he did before. Now we'll see what he holds on the way back.
And the wing, when they move the wing, it's creating less drag and creating an opportunity for the engine to run a little higher in RPMs and the speed to get a little higher. So now the package has to be good.
On the right side of your screen is Roger Yasukawa being pushed back towards the line. And Mario Dominguez sitting on the bump spot right now.
And he ain't getting out.
Here we go. Green flag is out, so Buddy Lazier on his second attempt today. Watch the lap tracker. If it goes green, that's good news for Lazier.
And yes.
So far, so good. Through turn 1 and 2. He's looking down at the dash. You can see his head.
Oh, I think he's probably looking down to look at the bars to maybe make some adjustments on the roll bars to help improve the handling of the car.
This is close. This is really close.
Again, just as before, everybody seems to be losing speed through 3 and 4. Here he comes down the front straightaway on his first of 4 laps here on attempt number 2. Buddy Lazier, 219.227, so laying the wing back was huge.
And he's ramped up big time on his second lap.
And a small wiggle there between 1 and 2. But running's just some beautiful Buddy Lazier lines that he's very famous for around this racetrack. Looking down the cockpit again, probably trying to make some adjustments on the roll bars to the car, trying to improve the handling because it's not perfect all the way around yet.
I always loved racing against Buddy. He put everything he always had into a race car, and he was always very correct. But he's on pace to make it. He's on pace.
Yeah, and notice he's well into the green after coming out of turn 4. So Buddy, as he looks down inside the cockpit again, here comes lap number 2, 219.371. It's actually a little quicker. So could the 96 winner have pulled the rabbit out of the hat with
He's
this
still going
last
up.
adjustment? And look at this on the lap tracker. You're right.
Those adjustments that he's making probably are improving the car. When you mention you run against Buddy, I have also, and I think the best term for him, if he's in your mirror, you know you're in trouble because he's a bulldog.
That's right. He's a nasty bulldog, too. He bites onto you, won't let go. I think this is the greatest story of the day. To be able to come and do so few laps and to make big changes on your last run before with 10 minutes to go, that's phenomenal. What a great team, a great effort.
Lap 3 again at 219 and low change. His average is 219.205, which would secure him in the field.
So close to the wall on 2 there.
Yeah, well, it's going to take more than a wall to slow him down on this lap. He's got 2 corners left, and he has made it into the field.
Tracking down just a little through 3 and 4. Maybe that little close.
That's it. He made it.
Brush with the wall has hurt it a little bit, but so far it looks like, according to lap tracker, yes, the numbers are going to be there. Buddy Lazier, the 96 winner, is going to make it into the field. Waiting for the official 4th lap.
He's still got it.
He is in the field, and Mario Dominguez is out. Jack?
Guys, unlike some of the other teams, they don't have all the bells and whistles on that number 91. Buddy Lazier had no idea whether that run was good enough or not. When his car owner, Ron Hemmelgarn, radioed to him and said, "Great job," all Buddy kept screaming is, "Did we make it? Tell me, did we make it? Did we make it?" And Hemmelgarn was silent for a minute, and finally he says, "Yeah, we did."
Wow. He dropped in the last one a little bit.
And yes, an average of 219.015 is what they're reporting right now. Our screens have not been updated.
219.017, the official mark now. He is 32nd on the grid. And on the bump now is Marty Roth at 218.965.
So now at this point, all everybody's doing, they're just coming in and saying, take the wing off.
We're going to play a little leapfrog here with 7 minutes and 20 seconds roughly remaining, as here comes Roger Yasukawa. This will be his second attempt. And there's Buddy Lazier. What a great run by Lazier.
But we can be sure that Roger did not go out with the same amount of downforce he had on his last run. So again, he's stepping into a territory he hasn't been.
Congratulations begin because they know they are secure. Here comes the green flag.
Over.
So Roger Yasukawa is now on his run. Tracking into the green so far. And there's Marty Roth pacing in pit lane in the upper right of your screen. No, this doesn't look good as he heads for turn 3 on lap tracker.
You just keep now the same graph he had before. He drops underneath the line, then he starts picking up again.
Coming down to get the first lap here at Indianapolis, 218.983. That is barely enough to put him into the field. But again, he's in the same boat he was before. He can't afford a single mistake.
If he's going to make it, he's got to ramp up a little bit more between 2 and 3. And here he starts back down again.
The celebration continues with Buddy Wright, or Buddy Lazier. Marty Roth strapping into his car while all this is going on trackside, and the clock continues to tick down. We're approaching 5 minutes, and now Yasukawa getting deeper into the red.
I think you can cancel him out.
Second lap coming up, 2:18.296. His 2-lap average would be 2:18.639. That's not enough.
Remember, the league will probably give him just this last lap here to make the 3rd lap, and that might be his last if he does not find speed. They will not hold anybody else up in the qualifying line that wants to get out and make an attempt.
Again, starting to head south on the lap tracker as he gets into turns 3 and 4. That's Mario Dominguez getting ready to go back out.
Just under 5 minutes left.
Coming through for lap number 3 and 2:18.216. And that gives a 3-lap average of 2:18.498. That's not good enough.
Look how things change quickly. 20 minutes ago, he seemed to be the one with the fastest pace.
He had run a back-to-back laps at 2:19 and change, and now can't come close to it.
And
except
Buddy
for
was
the first
totally
lap.
out of it.
And Buddy was. He was. I mean, you and I were looking at each other saying, where are they going to find it?
I'm surprised they're letting him finish this run with other people in the qualifying line.
He comes down to take the checkered flag, but it is not going to be good enough. And Dominguez is being pushed in. So Yasukawa's 4-lap average, 2:18.476. So his second attempt, and probably his final, because we're down to 4 minutes remaining in qualifying. And all you have to do is be on the track when the gun goes off. So Dominguez with 3 minutes and 45 seconds and counting, hitting the tech line.
The tech line? They should have been through that by now. So how's Roth feeling right now, Scott?
Your mouth is dry, your heart's beating,
and you're not even moving.
Well, and the reality is Marty is not going to have a chance probably based on the amount of time left if he were to get bumped out. So basically this could be the final bullet fired in the qualifying battle.
So let's talk about what Dominguez has done. They had a really good hour getting up to there.
Before we do that, let's get an update report from down pit lane. Brianne?
Marty, they have made changes to Dominguez's car. They added a little bit of front wing, took out some rear wing, but to give you an idea of just how precious time is right now, the crew was running with the car with the crew members literally hanging off the back wing, trying to make the changes as the car rolled to tech.
And we see some of the video from a little bit earlier where they were making the initial change, and again, we always talk about the nerves that you feel at this moment as they have fired the car. And he is out, so he will get one more shot to put it into the field and could potentially be our last qualifier, because we're coming up on 2 minutes, and it takes 2 minutes and 40 seconds roughly to run the 4 laps, let alone the 2 warm-up laps.
Now, if he's not going fast enough in the first couple of laps, the IRL does at their discretion have the opportunity to call him in. And I think on the previous car, what they ended up doing, because Dominguez was not ready, they let him go ahead and finish his 4-lap run.
And we are now under 2 minutes. In fact, 1 minute and 45 seconds until the gun will go off. So this will be the final qualifying attempt. Does Mario Dominguez make it in? Now, Roth moves into the line, but I think this is not going to be a factor, because we're now down to about 1 minute and 25 seconds. Let's watch and see if Dominguez has the RPM and the speed.
Just over 30 degrees on the steering, so a number that seems to be where you want it to be. Can he hang on to it?
10-2 down the back straight.
220 heading into the corner. 218 coming out.
This might be quicker.
We have 1 minute remaining in qualifying. Here comes the green flag. This will be our final qualifier for the 92nd running of the Indianapolis 500. Watch the lap tracker as he goes into one.
He's holding the car down. There's a lot of room there.
Into the green, down the back straightaway.
Just looks strong.
Marty Roth can only hold his breath. Again, as everyone has seen before, heading in towards 3 and 4, you're going into the wind and you lose a little bit.
It's looking good.
Let's hope the gun works today.
If you weren't with us yesterday, the gun did not fire, although we saw her pull the trigger 3 or 4 times. All right, here's lap number 1, 2:19.780. That is good. Oh, no! He spins it and hits the wall. And now almost gets airborne. And the gun has fired. Buddy Lazier chagrined because every driver has been in that position where you push and push.
And you don't want to see that, and that was Margaret Roth looking and seeing what happened. She doesn't want to see that either to a driver, even though it means her husband gets to stay in the event.
Unfortunately, that was bound to happen. It wasn't bound to happen, but the risk was getting higher and higher. When you start making changes like that the last 20 minutes, you're really rolling the dice.
A tough break for Mario Dominguez as he gave it everything he had.
And a little bit.
And a little bit more.
Did you see him try to correct right at the last minute?
And then it almost got airborne there.
Yeah.
And then he gets the other side.
He has nothing to be embarrassed of. That was a great hour he had. He just didn't quite have enough.
And as a rookie, it's very difficult to know the limit of the car. And as you continue to take the aero off the car and change the balance, we mentioned that it was just over 30 degrees of steering, a pretty low number.
Yeah, he looks pretty good almost all the way through the corner. Then right at the last minute, look at his hand. See his hand cross over?
Just loose on the back end. I can't recall the number, Eddie. Isn't it like 34 degrees of steering input usually, or 35? So maybe on the shy side of that.
So that is what's left of Mario Dominguez's car. And Marty Roth is in the race, and he's with Jack Arute.
There's an old ABC cliche, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. You lived through both of them, Marty Roth, in a span of about 30 seconds. Just moments before Dominguez spun, you were told that it was over for you to try and requalify, and then he spun and you were in the field. What was the emotional roller coaster like?
Well, I hate to see, Mario spin like that. I would have just preferred to do it on lap times, but and I hope he's okay. But oh boy, what a month, and being on the bubble is just getting worse and worse. Like it just means so much to be in the show, and everybody works so hard to get here. It's and I've gone home once, and I know what that feels like. So it's just. It's fantastic that it's over. That gun went off, and we're in the show. And I gotta thank my crew. My guys were just awesome. Honda Firestone just did a great job, and we're just happy to be here, happy to be in the show. It's like I said earlier today, you can't get rid of me, man.
Marty, let's talk for a minute, though, because you came late to racing. You made your fortune. You spent an awful lot of time riding elevators, carrying a briefcase, and wearing three-piece suits. Why?
Well, I started out racing motorcycles when I was 16, so I do have a long history of racing. I got off into Formula 2000 cars, and I've raced just about everything, and the desire and the passion to race in the big leagues, which is Indy, has always been there, and here I am. So. Never let go of those dreams, man, and you just got to keep plugging away.
There you go, guys. He says it the best. Everybody has a dream.
And while he is in the field, Buddy Lazier is also in the field with possibly the drive of the day. The sadness of Roger Yasukawa, Max Pappas, and of course, we'll be back with more. Back here at Indianapolis, where Bump day is officially over, and unfortunately that's what's left of Mario Dominguez, number 96 Dallara, as this is the adjustments that they were making, fever pitched as they were, trying to lay the wing back, get a little more, or a little less drag I should say, and a little more horsepower cranked out of that Honda power plant. And then this is what happened after he had turned in a very fine lap. And the end result, hard contact with the wall for Mario Dominguez. The third time in the month of May that he has hit the wall here at Indianapolis. The good news for Buddy Lazier is he is in the field after probably the most daring run we've seen in a long time. Vince?
Buddy, when you came in after your qualifying run and you flipped up the lid in the visor, I know that wasn't sweat in your eyes. How emotional was it to make the field here at Indianapolis today?
It's real emotional. I mean, I've felt a lot of emotions here over the years. I mean, my 16th start, and it runs deep. It's a special race. It's you know, I really hand it to Himmelgarn Johnson Racing. We peeled downforce off. We used all the experience we had. The problem is we got started so late. We only had yesterday and today, and today the track was just really tricky. It was a really tricky racetrack today. Not a kind of track that you want to qualify on because it's just so slippery. I feel bad for anybody and everybody that didn't make this race because we all put so much into it.
Ron Himmelgarn told us earlier today, he said, we can do 218, and I know Buddy can get us another mile per hour. What is it about you in that seat that gets the little extra out of the car?
Well, I mean, I'd love to take credit, but it's really the crew. They, you know, they tore downforce off, and they did it not being on the pad. And they gave it everything they had, and it was enough. And so a driver can only do so much, but it's really special. Having 16 starts, this will be my 16th start. You know, I've got some experience too, but it all came together, and it's a very, very difficult racetrack right now. So hopefully we'll be a lot better in a race. I mean, we've started at the back before and won, so I think we'll have a good race car. But boy, we were just a hair away from missing this. I don't ever want to do that again. You know, I want to be back here. We'll be back stronger in the future, but boy, I took everything we had, and it's very emotional.
What is it about Indianapolis and Buddy Lazier that makes it so special?
I don't know. I love this place, and I put a lot into it, so I'm happy about being in the field.
Yeah, fighting back the tears. Brianne?
Mario Dominguez, not the end to the Cinderella story that you wanted. Can you possibly describe what you're feeling at this moment?
No, it's not possible with words. I really feel terrible. For me, for my sponsors, for the team, but the only thing that makes me feel good is that we tried till the end. We tried as hard as we could, and that's the only thing that makes me feel good. We gave it our best effort, and at the end we just trimmed the car out, and it just the car didn't take that downforce, and I just lost it.
Now, the good news is that, if anything, your team has really come together in the last few days. How does that make you feel going into the rest of the season with the IndyCar Series?
Well, it's a great team. I think it's the best team out there, and we've been together since we started this year, and they've done a fantastic job. So I feel terrible. Could not qualify for this race.
Guys.
And you can see the disappointment etched in his face for Mario Dominguez as he gave it everything he could. Buddy Lazier did not take enough credit. Boy, what a drive he put in. He gave it all to his crew, but the three of us up here are still marveling at that one. And, of course, another guy disappointed, Max Papis, as he climbed out a little bit earlier and shakes the hands of his crew members as they, too, tried, but came up short here at Indianapolis on Bump Day. It's called Thunder Valley. It's the NHRA Powerade Drag Racing Series, and they're in Bristol, Tennessee this weekend. Stay tuned for the finals. It's coming up next right here on ESPN2, 6:30 Eastern, also on ESPN2 HD. Down trackside, there is a $50,000 check from Firestone to Buddy Lazier, as he is the final qualifier award winner. And boy, you talk about a team that can use the cash. They certainly not only could use it, they earned it with that great run that put Buddy into the 36th position at 219.016. All right, another guy who's on the sad side of things, not making the field for this year's race, is Max Papis. Jack Arute is with him.
And, Marty, we're making what could be described as the longest and loneliest walk up pit road for a driver, and that's after not making the field, Max.
I can't believe
that we didn't make the show. Like the LifeLock Geico car was fast enough to make the show. We posted a 2:21 a couple of times, and the last things was that came into my mind was that we were not going to make the show. But I guess that when the gearbox or whatever broke, in the car, I said a prayer and I said, if it's meant to be, let's get it fixed. We go out, and I guess that it was not meant to be. I can't really, I can't describe how disappointed I am. All the sponsors, Jim Friedenberg, everyone put a great effort together, and I guess these are the disappointment of the month of May, and I have the first, feel for it.
This was supposed to be, this Indy 500, a little bit of a homecoming for your family and your wife's family as well. And now what do you do?
I really don't know. What my wife told me that, I guess I'm together with Emerson with a non-qualifier because he didn't do it as well in '95. But that's exactly what we didn't want to do. It's just a shame. I can only say that we tried everything we could. We just couldn't get out and try to do an attempt. That's the saddest part. We were ready to rock and roll, and but I guess that the racing gods today, they didn't want us to be out there on the track to try to qualify.
We'll let you finish the longest walk in racing up pit road.
Thanks for the support anyway, and gonna see me back.
Mad Max has the disappointment. You can't hide it here. I mean, you talk about him wearing his emotions on his sleeve. It doesn't matter who you are. You're not that cold, not that hard. You put in so much effort through the full month getting to this moment, only to watch it go away. And meanwhile, on the other end, there is the joy that there is of knowing that you'll be in the field, as Buddy Lazier and Marty Roth well know, as they survive to race next Sunday. I want to remind you the NASCAR Nationwide Series will be in Charlotte on Saturday. Don't miss the CarQuest Auto Parts 300. Our coverage begins with NASCAR Countdown. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern. For more, just log on to ESPN.com. Meanwhile, here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, things have calmed down a little bit since the last-minute drama of Mario Dominguez trying to make it into the field. Roger Yasukawa is back to us there, talking over with someone who is commiserating the fact that he too did not make it into the 92nd running of the Indy 500. You see the pylon with all the corresponding numbers and the starting positions of the race cars. And of course, down at the bottom of that list, it is Buddy Lazier and Marty Roth, the last two to make it in. Let's talk to the team owner for Buddy Lazier.
Well, Marty, in 1996, Ron Himmelgarn was the owner of the car driven by Buddy Lazier and drove to victory here at Indianapolis. So you know the peaks and the depths of this place, where it is today, Rank.
Well, I mean, this is 30 year for me now, this race, and this is really, really exciting to pull it off at the last minute. And, we won the race. We finished last in this race, but this one here is very, very close to being one of the most exciting things.
You were very emotional with Buddy, and Buddy was emotional on the radio afterwards. What was going through your mind, through your heart at that time?
Well, I mean, first of all, we waved off that first attempt. It was 2:17. We made a few tweaks on the car and went back out, and he pulled that first 2:19. I knew he was on it, and the last thing Buddy said when he pulled out is, "This car going to stick?" And the crew said, "Yeah, it's going to stick," and that's all he needed. So he totally believes in the crew. This crew, we've been together a long time. We won the championship together, and I think him believing in the car, believing in the crew, they told him it was going to stick, and it did. And that 2:19 came up, and every lap 2:19, and you're holding your breath. You're hoping you're not going to lose the car in a corner or something, but very, very exciting.
Buddy Lazier got into the car in 1996 with a broken back to drive his way to victory here at Indianapolis. What is it about him as a driver in your mind that enables him to find that something extra?
Again, I think it's faith in the team and the crew, and we go back to 1989. I don't think most people realize that when he first drove one of our cars, and we've been through a lot together. And just like that, when he broke his back, obviously every driver called and asked, could they drive the car? And I says, no, it's Buddy's going to drive the car. And that was sort of crazy because that back was fractured, and we got a hold of seat builder, and Dr. Bach and Brock Yates, I'm sorry, and he built this seat for us, and it was a great seat, and he felt so good sitting in that car. And so it was a very expensive venture. Again, I believed in Buddy. Buddy believed in us. To get in that car with a broken back and race 500 miles and win this thing was quite a feat. And probably it's going to be one of the greatest stories ever told at the Indianapolis Speedway. Again, if he'd have crashed in that race, he could have been paralyzed, and he knew it. But again, we went into this game together, and we have stayed together, and it paid off. And it paid off today, just all that.
It sure did. Ron Himmelgarn and Roger Johnson, the two owners of the 91 car here at Indianapolis for Buddy Lazier. Marty?
And he started 5th the year he won that race back in '96. Last year he started 22nd, finished 19th. Is there a storybook ending for this team? We'll find out in 1 week. The greatest spectacle in racing, that's for sure. It's the Indianapolis 500, and you'll see it, the 92nd running, the 500 telecast presented by GoDaddy.com. Our coverage begins at 11 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2 and continues at noon Eastern next Sunday on ABC. The spread of the field from fastest to slowest, 7.4 miles per hour. The closest field ever was 1953. That was just over 3 miles an hour. Let's check in now with Jack Arute.
Roger Yasukawa in the race, out of the race, back trying to get back in. What's the emotions been like for the last 2 hours?
Well, obviously, it's very disappointing not being able to make the race. You know, I thought we had a pretty good handle on the car right before we went out. We were able to run 219, 3 or 4 average, so very confident going in. But the wind direction seemed to shift the last 20 or 30 minutes, and we just lost all our speed on the back straight. And unfortunately, we weren't in the show. But I certainly want to thank my team, Greg Beck, Beck Motorsports, my sponsor, HH Greg Real Power, Curb Records, and House Hunter Realty, and Wellman Racing. We've tried really hard last, pretty much 6 or 7 months trying to put this deal together, and it's very unfortunate not being able to make the show. But we're just going to have to come back stronger. I mean, I think Buddy Lazier and Himmelgarn Racing did a great job at the end. Very surprising, to be honest. But, I think I learned a lot from this year, and we'll just come back stronger.
That's what it's all about. Brianne Pedigo.
Jack, I'm with A.J. Foyt IV, who was the fastest qualifier today, so you didn't have to wait out the drama there that happened at the end. The big question is, will you be able to repair that car, or will you have to get in your backup car?
Yeah, they put the backup car together just in case we had to go back out there and make another attempt, but that car is not actually as bad as it may look, so I think we'll definitely get that one ready for the race.
Good news for A.J., guys.
And we just see the tail end of that deal that he had earlier today, where the fuel just ignited and spun him right into the wall, as there was one of the pieces coming off, and there is what's left of the car after the crash. We've still got a little bit more. Don't go anywhere here from Indianapolis. ESPN's presentation of the Indianapolis 500 Bump Day brought to you by GoDaddy.com, where you can make the web your domain with a .com name for as low as $1.99. And while we've got a moment here, before we show you the final grid for this year's 92nd running of the Indianapolis 500, let's talk about the NASCAR Nationwide Series, because that'll be on ESPN2 next Saturday. And you'll see it coming to you from Charlotte. Coverage begins with NASCAR Countdown at 7 p.m. Eastern. For more, just log on to ESPN.com. All right, let's set the final 11 rows the way they'll start next Sunday here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Of course, on pole, it will be Scott Dixon along with Dan Weldon and Ryan Briscoe. In row number 2, it's Elio Castroneves, Danica Patrick, and Tony Kanaan. Marco Andretti, Vitor Meira, and the rookie Hideki Muto on the outside of row number 3. In row 4, it'll be Ed Carpenter, Thomas Scheckter, and Townsend Bell. Then, as we take a look at row 5, Graham Rahal, Darren Manning, Bruno Junqueira, Justin Wilson, Buddy Rice, and Davey Hamilton make up row number 6. In row 7, a couple of rookies, Alex Lloyd and Ryan Hunter-Reay, joined by the veteran John Andretti. In row 8, Sarah Fisher will have Will Power and Jeff Simmons alongside. Then in row number 9, it'll be Aurelio Servia, EJ Viso, and Milka Duno. In row 10, it's our rookie row, Mario Moraes, Enrique Bernoldi, Jamie Camara. And in row 11, A.J. Foyt IV, Buddy Lazier, and Marty Roth. Drivers that attempted but did not make the field into this year's 500, of course, include Max Pappas, Mario Dominguez, Phil Giebler, who was released from the hospital earlier today, and Roger Yasukawa. So let's bring our two experts in. We've got a little bit of time. I want to start with you. Let's project to next weekend. What do you expect?
There are so many drivers that can win, but I really believe there'll either be, I'm not really taking a pick here, but one of the Penske drivers, one of the Ganassi drivers, or one of the Andretti Green drivers. They seem to be in a class of their own. But if I was to pick one,
that's 8 people.
That's the way it's been. They've been quick the whole time. I would have to say that Dixon is due.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. Scott Dixon's looks so good all month long. What about you, Scott?
He does. I think I would have picked one of the top teams, Eddie, if I was going to go out and
That's
live
why
like you did.
I asked to go first on purpose. I'm always last, so I get whatever's left from your question.
Well, let's we talk about dark horses then, since you covered the field actually on your Vegas type bet. I don't know. I'm going to have to go with Thomas Scheckter. I think that he's a bit of a dark horse right now, but running very strong, knows how to get the job done. Almost won the race here for you a few years ago. And did you run him out of fuel or something?
No, anyway, he ran out of real estate, but you're absolutely right. Thomas has all the ability, and that's a kind of a satellite Penske team, so that's a good choice.
He could be very strong.
How about Vitor Meira as another dark horse? I mean, they've looked good.
Been very quiet, and be his first win. It'd be a great win for him, but I think he has an opportunity. Has to be there at the end.
All right. Well, it has been fun so far. Hope you've enjoyed it. You're going to be all psyched for Carb Day. We'll see you at 11 a.m. We're going to be live with that, right? Yeah, that's going to be an experience for you.
Am I invited back?
You're invited back. We had fun. All right, listen, join us Friday at 11 a.m. East Penn 2 for Carb Day here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. And coming up next, we've got a lot going on at Thunder Valley. It's the O'Reilly NHRA Thunder Valley Nationals final eliminations. For Scott Goodyear, Eddie Cheever, Jack Arute, Vince Welch, and Brianne Pedigo, I'm Marty Reed. Thanks so much for joining us here at Indianapolis. Till we meet again.